Oh, sorry, Luke's running late. Okay. All right. All right, it's just after 6 o'clock, so let's begin the study session of Urbana School District 116. Roll call, please.
Member Cheryl, Member Hickson,
Present.
Member Marabou,
Here.
Member Jones, Member Langendorf here, Vice President Baxley,
Here.
President Pulowski.
Here, we do have a quorum. I know Member Jones is planning on arriving a little bit late. Are there any additions, corrections, or modifications to tonight's agenda? No. Hearing none, there will not be a call for an executive session after tonight's meeting, so now it will be time for citizen statements. If anybody here present wishes to make a statement before the board, please hand a goldenrod sheet that's located in the back of the room to our recording secretary, Lori Johnson. Going once, going twice. No citizens wish to make a statement this evening, so the chair would entertain an approval of tonight's agenda as published.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions, comments, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an agenda. Now time for our student ambassadors report.
Hi, this is our ambassador report for today. So what's happened in the first couple weeks of school, there was Quad Day, where lots of student groups came out and they showed school spirit. There were lots of clubs and sports and extracurriculars, and there's food there and games and some community organizations. I know basically all the clubs and sports I were involved in were there, and so I think it was a very popular event, and I think a lot of people showed out, and it was very successful. On the next slide, we have some pictures from the event. So yeah, lots of students came out. I know lots of people were talking about it. So very successful event.
For the past few weeks of sports, soccer got their first win against Peoria High School. JV volleyball won against MacArthur, and then the golf team got first in the Oakwood tournament and fourth in the Lincoln tournament.
So for looking forward, the first football game was Friday night. It was very busy. Lots of students were there. Lots of students were on theme. It was very fun. And that will continue. And then the Tiger Marching Band was in the Labor Day Parade yesterday. They did a very good job. National Honor Society induction will be next week. And the continuation of the UHS phone policy will happen. As of right now, I think it's going very well. I've been, almost all my classes, it's been introduced very well, and lots less students are on their phones. And then we have started sending out the student survey for student responses on UHS. We'll continue to send those out, but as of right now, we have noticed lots of students saying that they have lots of adults and teachers that they feel like they can trust and talk to in the building. So I just thought that was something good that we should know, and we will be back in a future meeting with more on that. But thank you guys.
Sorry, thank you. It is now time for board reports. I'd like to kick this off with a note of appreciation for Lori Johnson, whose birthday it is today, who works for us tirelessly. There's a little bit of appreciation from the board here. You can collect it after the meeting, but thank you so much for everything you do. Well, it's all right, fine. Just picked up a little bit of, they're orange, so. Happy birthday, Lori. Continuing with board reports, I guess I want to bring up a note. Does it change this agenda this time around? We're starting to report the FOIA calls. The first time we've tried to kind of be transparent with the public with regards to what the FOIA request processing is costing the district, and I think the administration wants to give a little bit of an update on that.
Yes, so we need some direction from the board, and I know this has come up in recent conversations, and so this was our first meeting of the year where we attempted to indicate FOIA costs. As you'll note from the dates that are listed, we are always a month behind in when we receive the lawyer bills, so this reflects July 1st through the 31st, which is one of the reasons why we were not able to list out all of the FOIAs received. As you'll note, we have the one larger requested cost item for Matthew Swift. And then Susan, we've discussed this, board members know that Susan Nicholas, our other Robinson Schwartz attorney, handles all of our other FOIAs. So currently, the way they have been listing that information on our lawyers' bills, it was difficult for us to tease out of the 4 or 5 other FOIAs that Susan worked with Lori on and with John on, the amount for each one. So instead of listing those 4 or 5, we just lumped them together. Moving forward, we've had conversations with Matthew and Susan, and they, from our August bills moving forward, will now be able to tease out, like if Susan works with Matthew on a particular FOIA, we'll be able to know exactly how much that amount will be, and then we'll be able to list out all of the FOIAs received and the amount associated with the legal costs for each one. We couldn't do that for this first one because we were just trying to show you a structure of how we wanted to list them on the agenda moving forward, and find out if this was an okay way to list them. Knowing August 1st on, we will have, either for Matthew or Susan, we will have all of them listed out with that amount, because that's how they'll show up on our attorney bills moving forward. So was this the way that we have it with just listing the name of the attorney associated with the FOIAs and then the amount, is that an okay way to list it out? Because remember, this is just the time that our attorneys spent working through those FOIAs. It's not the time for staff, which was something else that I think when this discussion happened with the board, there was a discussion on not just how much the cost is to the district, but also what's the cost and time and effort from John, myself, and from Lori. So we did not have, as of Friday, a good way to represent that, but I know John's been talking with Matthew a little more, and maybe he has a sample of, if you guys, we could show you what we were thinking, and then you could tell us yay or nay. But let's address the FOIA costs first. Is this an okay way to do this once we start listing them all out individually? I see head nods. Yes, Sherry?
Yeah, I think that these names are not a secret because in the previous agendas, they're all listed.
Oh, absolutely.
And exactly what the FOIA is about. So it's not like they're whistleblowers and we have to
Yes.
conceal their identity.
Yes.
I think, I don't know whether or not it's feasible as you have a list of each FOIA, if we could have a price for each one, because there are some that probably may take only a small amount of time.
Absolutely.
And other ones that might take incredible amount of time.
Yes.
So, that would be nice for us to
We'll do
just
that. So
see
like,
as well.
if you look at this
break it out.
agenda, yes, so if you look at this month's agenda, or the current agenda that we have in front of us, we have a FOIA from a Mackenzie Sommer, and then records retrieval. So moving forward, when we get the attorney bill, we would list both of those names and the amount of time that we're being charged for each one. So it sounds like each FOIA.
If I could
Yes.
add then, just to let you make sure you're aware, those FOIAs will be a month behind then.
Yeah,
So if they're completed today, they won't show until we get the bill.
right.
Just make sure that.
And for the staff completion time, that wasn't listed here because we hadn't been tracking that. So for the month listed for July, we didn't have that for staff time, but that'll also be a month behind, but that'll start coming. And I can show you kind of a little sample here if this looks, except I think you guys just said now, let me make it a little bigger. You guys said each FOIA individually listed out, which we've started doing a tracking system internally for time internally, which is a little bit more of a burden on us, but we're happy to do that to help give some clarity to the board and the public.
So the way John has it listed here, is that a reasonable way that we would put it on the agendas moving forward?
Noting that we would list each FOIA separately,
Separately.
which we'll also have a little bit more. We'll probably have, right now we don't like number or tag FOIAs, but we'll probably start giving them each a unique identifier.
It's hard for excuse me, it's hard for us to understand and what's involved, because if we get a FOIA from somebody who is either a business owner and wants to know every single purchase you made, and we don't know if does that take you half an hour just to print it out, or does it take you days in order to acquire all that information? So it's good to know that, what's
Yeah.
involved in a FOIA.
Yeah, and we'll be able to provide that moving forward. Anecdotally, the commercial requests that come through for all the bills are usually pretty easy. It's a standard thing that we have on hand. It's more of the time is the FOIAs that are bundled multiple questions into a single FOIA, which is legally allowed.
Did
Okay.
I get you the direction you need?
I think I saw a lot of head,
Yeah.
okay? So I think we are moving in the right direction, so thank you for that.
Okay,
And so the first one with staff time will probably come, this is September, so that'll come at the October meeting, just so, yeah, whenever we report, just so you won't see it for 3 meetings.
continue with board reports. Does any board member wish to give a report this evening?
I just wanted to tell our student ambassadors that I went to the football game on Friday and was served in the concession stand by the Urbana Student Council. And they did a great job. I told them that they did us proud. They didn't get flapped, they really kept their cool and were very organized. Thought they did a great job.
Awesome.
Awesome. Great. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna ask, do you want me, you do yours, and I was gonna ask if you guys want me to do the tentative draft board agenda now, or do it during my superintendent report time, either
Oh,
one.
Why don't we do this after board members have
Yep,
given their
yep.
reports?
I didn't know Sherry was getting ready to chime in there.
Okay, I just had an opportunity today to go to the middle school. I had a tour, and I believe what they are implementing has been very effective, having the 8th graders and the 7th grade separated. There were obviously less students in the hallways. I want to show appreciation to the teachers who made sacrifices with moving classrooms, because I know that they went to different parts of the building, and and it's all their effort, I think, is going to make big gains. They're going to have big gains because it's going to provide a better learning environment. And I appreciate the fact that they're all into accepting new protocols and working together so that there are high expectations at the school. So I want to thank also Principal Kearns for taking the time this morning to show me around. I did have the opportunity to go to the 6th grade center, but not during the day. I hope to get there. But I've been there in the evening, and I've also seen the excitement of families and parents and teachers to start the new year. So I'm hoping that to get there so I can see how the students are doing in the new improved learning environment there. And I didn't get a chance to say this before, but I wanted to thank Randy and you, Dr. Ivory Tatum, for getting it done on time. I know that there are some loose ends and everything, but we had a vision and just kept plugging along, and you made your deadlines and school started on time, so we really appreciate that. I also attended the Quad Day, and it was a lot of fun and a good turnout, and it's good to know about all the different clubs that are available at the school. There really are a lot of opportunities for students there. And my last thing is the Tiger Market. We did receive an increase, 2/3 increase, for our amount that we get to spend at the food bank. So we're up to $5,000 for the year. Last year, we only had $3,000, so we kind of had to stretch it a little bit, and we didn't stock the adult ed center as well as I wanted to, so we'll be able to do that. And I'd also like to invite, if you're listening, Mr. Mark Petty, who wrote a letter to the editor about our new 6th grade center, to come and visit the school. I believe he lives in Arcola, and they have 688 students in the district and 280 in the 7th through the 12th grade, according to the Illinois report cards. So I can't imagine that in a lunchroom they have all 281 students eating at one time. So I think the environment that he probably sees there is much different than what we see in Urbana. So I hope he'll come and see our schools.
Thank you. Any other board reports?
Can I say something in response to Sherry? Thank you for recognizing all the teachers who had to pack, and because I feel like almost every single person in that building had to move. And at the 6th grade center too. But I also want to give a shout out to the facilities team and our summer help, because They literally had to move all those people from room to room in the middle school, and then all the classrooms that were moved over. And I know you kind of gave Randy a shout out, but I want to also mention Tyler McKinney and the our movers who are summer help, because it was a huge undertaking to move that many people in just a few weeks. So, yeah, and to make it all happen in time for school to start was great. Yes.
Thank you. One last call for board reports.
I just got a message from member Cheryl. He can't make it. I don't know if he
Oh, I
sent it to
appreciate
you. Yeah,
No,
okay.
no, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it as well, letting us know. All right. I think we can move on now to discussion of the, basically a draft calendar for
Okay.
topics for our meetings.
Yes, so I have been working on this, and I had to meet with our directors who come before you to make presentations, and then also taking your, you have a draft in front of you. So I took the conversation we had on June 17th and then the conversation we had in early August and tried to plug all of those topics into a reasonable one. That my goal is to keep our business meetings as business meetings and not have a lot of presentations, and have more of our presentations fall during the study session topics, which is where they should be. And so this is just a draft. I'm going to walk through some of the areas that you mentioned that you wanted us to discuss, just to show that I've kind of indicated them here. And then there are a few that I think we're still trying to think through how we're going to represent those on as a topic. So in June, Sherry mentioned the cell phone policy. Well, we're doing that tonight. Principal Guzman is here to talk about that. We also had Sherry mentioned about incoming kindergartners. So we're going to have Kelly Allen come, our kindergarten transition coordinator, is coming September 16th to kind of give a report about the kindergarten transition. We may have to move that back a little bit because there is a kids assessment that our teachers give at the beginning of the year, which we gather a lot of information from. They get so many days, I think it's 40 days at the beginning of the school year to complete that. So depending on where we are with the completion of that report, we may move that back a little bit. But for right now, we have it as a September 16th share out from Kelly Allen. Paul, we mentioned immigration services, and so I kept that in October where we had our multilingual department come and speak last year to give our families time and just our community, our university community, everybody a chance to get in and get settled. And Lupe is going to take the lead on that in terms of reaching out to some of the many services, like we have the McKinley Center on campus, the Refugee Center, just all of those groups, to figure out what a presentation might look like around that. So we have that scheduled for October 28th. Ben mentioning school safety. I have that later in the year. So if you turn to the back, I have it with the April 7th safety night. So that's when we'll do our SRO annual report. We'll have our district crisis team report, and then I'm kind of calling it, Ben, partnership presentation with Urbana Police, because you had talked about maybe fostering a broader relationship with the UPD. We can do that earlier if you like, but I kind of stuck it there because I thought, we're already going to be talking about district safety and SROs. Maybe that's a good place for it, but if you'd like us to do that earlier and not wait until April, I'm on board with doing that. We have a school liaison, one of the lieutenants, Matt Bain, who sits on our district crisis team. He's like my liaison that I reach out to whenever we have anything that we need, directly from the police, besides our SROs. I go to our SROs for most things, but sometimes there are procedural things or just those higher level questions that they can't answer. So Matt Bain is our person, and he comes to all of our monthly crisis meetings. And he was more than happy to work with the chief on, putting together something from their side to come that night. Okay, so if you're okay with that being in April, that's where I have it right now. And let's see, from August, of course, we talked about negotiations. That will happen in the springtime. Jennifer had brought up the Refugee Center, but I think we'll plug that in when we talk about immigration services. We're doing Avid tonight. That was another very specific request. There was discussion about an MOU with the Park District on how we use our auditorium. We haven't really done that yet, but I know Randy and Marianne meet with the Park District monthly for the pool meetings, so maybe you guys could bring that up when you're in one of those spaces with Corky and to ask him about if that's something that is of interest to the Park District. And policy review, I know we go through our press policies, but I didn't know how to plug in if there are specific policies that you know, we just can, as things come up, we can plug them in as we go, or if there are specific ones, if you guys want to give me a list of some specific board policy review items. So I didn't really plug those in.
I think we, as a board, should take an opportunity to look at our gift acceptance policy.
Okay.
Because there was a group that wanted to give iPads to teachers, which sounds like an awesome thing, and that
Oh,
would
yeah.
fall under the state legal limit with regards to what's acceptable for a gift for a teacher, but it's not allowed under our current board policy. And I hate to deny a staff member access to an iPad just because we haven't updated our number in our policy in a while. So I think we should take the opportunity to look at
Yeah,
that again.
that's a really good one. You're good. So if you if there are others that, oh, go ahead, Sherry.
I just would, if you can, change the kindergarten transition report, that'd be great. I'm not going to be at the September 16th meeting.
Oh, well, then I will move it.
So,
Okay.
I'd like to be
That's good.
here. I
Thank
will
you.
watch it, but I won't.
No, we
Yeah.
want, you asked for that as a
Yeah.
topic, so you should be here when we present it, so, okay. Otherwise, we have our traditional things in here, in October, we'll talk about the school report card. We have gone through with our exec team folks and directors, so John is gonna come in October and talk about we plugged in some of our strategic plan topics. So one of our strategic plan topics is our district-wide communication tool. John's having some meetings and doing some data collecting now with Catherine, so they'll come in October and talk about that. We have our standard curriculum and student learning presentations. We'll do our homeless report. And we'll have a Gear Up update. So all of our grants, we've got those plugged in different spaces to share a report update on the grants. A new one that we added in December is our minority enrichment program update. We have a minority enrichment program coordinator at the high school for the first time in 4 years. So I intentionally put that for December to give that person a whole semester to be able to come and talk about what they're doing at the high school. And I paired that with the Gear Up. If you remember, the Gear Up is that college and career ready kind of STEM grant that we have for the next 7 years. So we'll have that person come. We have a staff member who's paid out of the grant. So we'll have her come. She works with 7th, 8th, 6th through 12. Okay, 6 through 12. I kept the superintendent evaluation around the same time, that January, February timeline, so we can have that done by March 1st. We have our transportation overview in February, and we'll kind of give a report around that. I moved up the discipline improvement plan because it is due to ISB by February 1st, so we'll do that in January as well. March is reserved for our reduction in force meetings. And then if we have any, I didn't have any additional presentations to plug into March, but I'm sure something will get added there. And then a new thing this year is for our intensive schools. I don't know if you noticed, DPW is listed here in February and then again at the end of the year. So there's a new requirement from the state for any intensive schools. They have to present before the board 3 times a year. So she's already come and presented earlier in August, and so we will have Principal Jackson come back in February, and then she'll come back May 5th. We will have our crisis kind of update on April 7th. We have our standard renewal, contract renewals, and all those things for the business meetings. And then closing out the year, it'll be our typical unsung heroes, the Seal of Biliteracy, student artwork. And then we get into those heavier school improvement updates, presentations. Right now, we have at least 2 times that we're going to try to come before the board to give you an update on the strategic plan. And we'll do that first semester once, and then we'll do it again in second semester. And I just noticed we didn't put that on there for December, so I need to write that in there. And I think that is it. The only one that, Jennifer, we did not get on, and I know Angie maybe is gonna, oh, she's here. We'll have some time maybe to talk about this a little bit more, maybe with our attorneys. The conversation around the exit interviews. Angie and I talked about that. We want to talk a little bit more with because there's just so many, doing a board presentation around that with the sharing of personal information or, so we just thought that was one we need a little more guidance on before we plug it into.
Oh, I agree. I wasn't really meaning for that to be a board
Oh, okay,
presentation.
okay.
I just meant it was something for us to think about and,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
work on.
Well, that makes me feel a little better because we were
Okay.
trying to figure out how can we do this. So, yes. Yes, okay. Well, I had it down here to ask a little more, to get some clarifying information about that. So that might be something you could come in maybe and have a one-on-one with Angie about, as we go on. So, okay, good. Otherwise, I feel like we got most of the things that you guys mentioned to us. Is there anything that you thought of since we talked? Yes.
It's not additional, I just want to say that I did watch a webinar on the topic of evaluating superintendent.
Yes.
And it's probably, I went to see now, it's probably, if it's not online yet, it will be, it's less than an hour. And I would recommend that members watch that before the January meeting, so
Okay.
get an idea of what's done in the state. Sure, you just go to the Illinois Association for School Boards, and it's listed as one of their webinars.
I do want to say, just from my colleagues, the evaluation tool that our board uses is much more, is having the standards, what you guys put together in, was that 2018-ish?
It's from maybe 2017,
Is-
but yeah.
Is more than what some of my colleagues have, I think, so it's good information. I don't know if that's why you mentioned that or not.
Is it
but-
effective, highly effective, or very highly effective?
Right. Okay, I'm going to have to watch that now. You
Well,
piqued my interest,
actually,
Sherry.
we would appreciate any feedback that
Yes,
you have
absolutely.
on the instrument, so.
Yeah. And our new board members, like, this will be your first time using the tool, so any feedback that you guys have would be really appreciated as well, so.
I'm appreciative of this discussion. For the majority of my time on the board, we didn't really have like this overarching year-long view of what's gonna come our way, which made it the last 3 months of meetings like all 4+ hours long because we were trying to squeeze everything at the end. So it's really nice to have this, I think, better pacing.
And I said this last year, and I'll say it again, this is subject to change at any time, and we will have to add things that come up, and we may have to move something, just like we're gonna move the kindergarten one to October. And are you here for both October meetings? Okay, perfect. So, yeah, okay, thank you, Paul.
Anyway, let's moving on to policy review. First up is Press Plus 118.
I'm doing a lot of talking tonight, so this will be quick. If you look at the first page of your packet, it really is outlining for you the major reason for this policy review is the Title IX reversion to the 2020 regulations. So, as you know, shortly after the inauguration of our new president in January, we received information that we were going to be reverting away from the 2024 Title IX regulations and back to the 2020 regulations. So we've talked about that a little bit, and most of the changes in the policies that you see in Press 118 are because of that. So what they have to do is, they'd already changed all the language to the 2024 Title IX, the sex discrimination regulations that went into effect August 2024. Now they had to go back into all of those areas of the press and change it back to reflect 2020 language. So that was a big reason for the review. The other is a new ensuring success in school law. So it is a new school code for children and students who are parents, expectant parents, or victims of domestic or sexual violence. So there's some new policy around how are we getting those students support, making sure that we are getting supports to students that are having increased mental health needs or concerns. So that was a change in some of the policies. And then John was excited to see, because this was something he's going to be talking with the board about anyway, is our guidance or our guidelines for how we're implementing AI and our artificial intelligence in our K-12 classrooms. And so he's been working with a small group of people and specifically some teachers on some things that they've been trying out through the technology department. So that is the other new policies that you'll see related in 118. And John's going to be coming forward to share more about that with the board soon. So there weren't very many that I really wanted to spend specific time talking about, other than as you'll go through, the reason that's why I gave you that little blurb at the beginning is all of the changes that you're seeing are either about Title IX, about the mental health needs for students, and basically about AI. So there weren't any really concerning things that we needed to bring up, and basically I think that is it, unless people had really specific ones. I know the suspension and expulsion one I was going to mention. If you look at page 6, there's some new language around suspension review hearings and expulsion hearings, making sure that we are doing whatever we can to support students individually, and considering the mitigating factors around why students are suspended or why we're considering expelling them. I know our new state superintendent, well, he's not new anymore, but Dr. Sanders has really been talking to superintendents about expulsion, and there's some new language around no longer being able to expel pre-K, K, and first graders. That was actually happening in districts. I don't ever remember a time where we brought forward a elementary or a pre-K or first or second grader or kindergartner for expulsion, but that basically is no longer something that in the state of Illinois that our state superintendent is allowing us to do. So I know that is something that is reflected in some of the new expulsion procedures. Let me see. That was one that I was gonna, those two were two that I was gonna highlight, and I think those were the main ones. Does anybody have any specific questions about any of specific policies that they'd like us to tease out a little more? Okay. Well, we won't be voting.
Jennifer.
Jennifer, go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering if we have any parents. We have so many experts at the U of I about computer stuff. If we have some parents on that AI
I think John
committee.
does have a couple parents.
I do, and some are from the U of I. Yeah.
Great. And then the one where it said guidance and school counseling services, it said the superintendent or designee shall annually.
Which number is it? Do you know?
Oh, God, I don't know.
Okay, go ahead and
I
read it.
wrote it from that press
Okay.
thing I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All school personnel and students 12 years age and older in writing of the availability of counseling without parent,
yes.
guardian consent under blah, blah, blah. And, I mean, I was just wondering, how would that be handled? And it used to be that we couldn't
Student support
suggest
services.
counseling.
Yes.
Because we couldn't pay for it. And
So
did
it
they mean
basi-
school counseling or?
They mean, well, we have counselors who at our middle schools and our high school, and we have social workers at the other places. So I read through that as well, and the way I took that is we can, like today, we had to do a threat assessment on a student. And so when you're in the middle of a threat assessment with a student and they're talking about whatever is caused you to have the threat assessment, that's an opportunity where you can say to the student, We have a social worker here that you can meet with. Because by their rules, we're allowed to meet with a student, I think 3 times for like 30 minutes before we have to have it be in a formal IEP or 504. So I took that to mean that it's telling the students, we're not sending out a mass notification to every student under 12 saying, you can meet with a counselor. I see that to be driven more so through this new every student succeeding law. Like if we see students that are struggling and we're seeing the mental health needs, that we can say to a student, hey, we have a counselor here or a social worker here that you can talk to, or a clinical professional. And then especially for the older students, they can meet with those people once or twice without it being formalized in a formal IEP or something like that. So I see that to be more need driven. When we have a student who's struggling with mental health or other needs in that way, we can say, we have people here who can help you.
I guess the fact that it said in writing, it's not just telling the student, and it's telling the parents. So do we have to make sure that the parents know that the students have the right to this?
Well,
without the parents being present.
I was going to say, like, we can tell the student that without it going to the parents. So, yeah, students that are over 12, and that is mostly our middle school and high school students. So this is more so for the secondary level, because that's the only level where we have counselors. That is saying to a student in writing, we have people here that can work with you, and making sure that that student knows that. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on Press Plus? Again, we'll be voting on approving these policy changes at our next meeting.
So if you think of something between now and then, let me know.
All right. Moving on, we have 2 public hearings tonight. These always happen whenever we're talking about our budget issues, so we open the floor up for the public to weigh in on our budget discussion. So I'm going to now open the floor. Does anybody wish to come forward and address the board with regards to our fiscal year 26 district budget? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right. Hearing is closed. And again, we're doing the same thing for the adult education budget. The chair is now opening a public hearing for the fiscal year 26 adult education budget. Does anybody wish to come forward and address the board about the adult education budget? Going once, going twice, 3 times. Hearing closed. Moving on to our study topics. The Urbana High School cell phone guidelines. Does Mr. Guzman, you step away?
Oh, okay.
We'll just move on to Avid then. We'll come back to 11.1.
All right, good evening, board and Dr. Ivory Tatum. Thank you for allowing me to come tonight to speak about AVID and how it's implemented in Urbana School District. My name is Jessie Bradford. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Student Learning, but I'm also the AVID District Director, and this is my 2nd year in this role, and I'm really excited to present to you tonight because AVID is amazing, and I'm really excited to see it grow and to just inform you on how it's implemented and how it supports college and career readiness and student achievement. So here we go. So this first picture is AVID Summer Institute that was held in Chicago, and we sent 44 people to AVID Summer Institute, which is amazing that we were able to do that. We sent people from Dr. Preston Williams Elementary, the 6th grade center, Urbana Middle School, Urbana High School, Central Office staff, and Tiger Academy. So we had a really good representation and a lot of new staff members that got trained on AVID. So the essential question that I have is, what is AVID and how is it implemented across the district to support college and career readiness and student achievement? All right, so AVID's mission is to close the opportunity gap by preparing all students for college and career readiness and success in a global society. So what is AVID? So that's what I'm here to talk about. AVID is a school-wide system which utilizes a framework that, like I said, promotes college and career readiness for all students, fosters a safe, positive, inclusive classroom culture, creates student-centric and highly engaged classroom environments, supports high expectations for teachers and students, creates a rigorous learning environment, and supports teachers in the use of research and evidence-based high-yield instructional practices that layer onto existing curriculum to enhance learning of any content. So we're going to talk about Wicker in just a moment. But as you can see here, a lot of these support initiatives that are already being led in the district. So our portrait of a graduate that focuses on college and career, you can see that aligns to that. A safe, positive, inclusive classroom culture that supports like our CHAMPS training that we're doing. Highly engaged classroom environments, we do that through Wicker. And if you notice in the school improvement plans, teachers had to choose a high yield strategy, and AVID has them through Wicker. So as you can see, AVID's just on another program. It's just really good strategies that teachers can use in their classrooms. AVID elevates Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction, and as you know with our data, we need to really strengthen our Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction, and AVID can be implemented across all grade levels K through 12. So we have AVID Elementary at DPW. This is their first year implementing. They've also hired an AVID coach to come in and support them to lead AVID in their building, specifically with 5th grade. And then we have AVID Secondary. As I said, we have it at the 6th grade center. And they're going to do AVID school-wide, which means all teachers are implementing AVID. We also have AVID Elective at the 6th grade center. We have 2 AVID elective classes there. At Urbana Middle School, it is not new. They've been implementing AVID, I think, for 5 years. And they also have AVID elective in 7th grade and 8th grade. And then moving on to the high school, they are in their 2nd year of implementation. And they have AVID elective at 9th grade. And this year we added it for 10th grade. And Tiger Academy also has some AVID trained staff. And they implement it within their curriculum and instruction. And as you can see here, AVID trained educators are closing opportunity gaps. And if you can see here, you can see just the rate of where it is closing the opportunity gaps. And we know that that's a big initiative in our district, is to close the opportunity gap. And AVID is a great way to do it. And so AVID is centered around college and career readiness framework, as you can see here. It's really centered around 4 domains. So the first one is it focuses on instruction. It also focuses on systems. Well, so what systems do schools have in place? Leadership. I'd like to say that all the schools that are implementing AVID, all of their leadership building administrators have been trained. And so that's really exciting because you need leadership to support AVID. And then the culture. What does your culture look like to support college and career readiness? So it's based off of those four domains, but as you can see in here, in the triangle, it talks about what students need. And we know that students need rigorous academic preparedness and opportunity knowledge. And then what do educators do? And we talk about this all the time with our educators. Insist on rigor. We have to provide students with rigor. We have to break down the barriers and identify those. Align the work with school improvement, like I said, the initiatives that we have here. And then we have to advocate for our students. And all of this is built around, as you can see, the outside triangle. We talk about this all the time, and that's relational capacity. And so what students need, as I just stated, students need rigorous academic preparedness, opportunity knowledge, and we need to build our student agency. And AVID does this. And then how does it help our educators? What does AVID do for our teachers? As I said, they insist on rigor, so making sure that every student is challenged, engaged, and develops a great ownership of their learning. That's really key. Breaking down those barriers, so actively identifying and work to eliminate structural and perceptual barriers that limit students' access to relevant and challenging learning experiences. Aligning the work, so like I said, how do we align that to policies, practices, and beliefs and our shared vision for college, career, and life? And how do we advocate for our students? That's the one big piece of AVID that I love, is how we advocate for students. That's a big piece of AVID. And as I talked about, relational capacity. AVID is key, is big on building relational capacity. I actually did a PD this summer on relational capacity to teachers across the district. How can, because as we know, students really don't learn from teachers if they don't like, don't trust. And so that relational capacity is huge. And so how we connect relational capacity to build respect, trust, and authenticity by teaching. So it really focuses on those 4 relational capacity skills. And then, so I talked about Wicker. Wicker is how we build rigor inside the classrooms. And so we do this by implementing Wicker strategies. So Wicker, when we talk about Wicker, is how can you provide strategies for writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. And so there's specific strategies for those 5 things that teachers can implement in their classrooms while teaching. I'm going to do an upcoming PD. I did a Wicker PD this summer, but I'm also going to continue that in the fall for teachers. I'm going to call it how to Wickerize your lessons. And so that builds engagement and rigor. So it's really important that our teachers know how to use Wicker. And I know that Urbana High School has focused on this last year. They're continuing to focus on it this year. Anybody who's implementing AVID implements Wicker. So it's good teaching, good strategies to use inside the classroom. And so like I said, DPW is our first school who's implementing AVID Elementary. And really what AVID Elementary focuses on is developing that growth mindset with students in grades K through 5. Really building that student agency, introducing them to Wicker strategies. You can take that's what I love about Wicker. You can take any Wicker strategy and adapt it to any grade level to provide that rigor and engagement. And then it really works on partnerships and then horizontal and vertical alignment of how to build those skills starting in kindergarten all the way to 5th grade. And it's embedded throughout the school day. And then secondary, it looks a little bit different. So we really started AVID at Urbana with the elective classes. So AVID elective, like I said, we have 2 AVID elective classes at the 6th grade center. We have 2 at 7th grade, 1 at 8th grade, and then 1 at 9th and 10th grade. So the AVID elective class really focuses attention for students facing inequities, but it's really for those students that need to be pushed to excel in honors courses. I think there's kind of a misunderstanding of what AVID elective is, but it's really to support those students to take rigorous courses and to help them prepare how to be successful in rigorous courses. And so in AVID elective, we teach students a lot of skills focused around our Wicker strategies, but also preparing them for college and career readiness. And teachers do that. We call them WAGs. They're called Weeks at a Glance. And there's specific lessons that our AVID elective teachers use in the classroom. So I did AVID walkthroughs today. And in our AVID electives, a lot of discussions were like how to be organized. I think that's such an essential skill that our students need to be successful. And so some classes were talking today about how to be organized, and they teach them organizational skills. Another one was through like time management. Time management is crucial for our students to be successful, how to manage their time. And another class was talking about using their Avid planners for organization, and really teaching them and modeling on how to use their planners. At the high school, when we did walkthroughs today, they were really talking about homework and how to support that, how students can keep updated on their grade checks. So there's just a lot, and I should have brought it, but I will send it to you. But I can send you like what the weeks at a glance look like for each grade level. But it teaches specific skills for our students to be college and career readiness. It also builds that family inside the Avid elective. Invite like students exploring college and career readiness. What are their interests? Taking them on Avid field trips to colleges, bringing in guest speakers, having them do community service projects. So really just getting them prepared at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade level to go into high school to take those rigorous courses and to help them explore what they want to do after high school. So you have to be invited in to the Avid elective class through a selection and recruitment process. And so we're working on that. We're working on building that and building numbers on our Avid elective classes. And then 6th Grade Center is implementing Avid school-wide, which means all teachers are doing Avid school-wide. And so that's what Avid looks like across our district. There's an sample week in the Avid elective of like what it looks like. So like, since we didn't have school on Monday and tutorials have not started yet, they were working on the Avid curriculum. But usually 2 days a week are built into tutorials, which is a huge part. It's a study skill. It's really teaching students on how to address a problem or a question that they have in a class, and then how to come to a solution. But the students do it together, and so it really teaches them how to be collaborative and how to, and inquiry skills. If you ask them, that's not their favorite because it's really hard. But we have really focused on that last year, how to strengthen the tutorials, and our students are getting really good at it. And so I'm excited to continue that process this year with our students. Wouldn't say that they're really excited, but they do a really nice job. And then Fridays we call choice days. So teachers can implement, like I said, binder evaluation. So they do binder checks to check for organization, grade checks, field trips, guest speakers, and then like a lot of like that community building with a lot of team collaboration and activities. That's what I was talking about, the Avid tutorials. The students lead it. We don't have adult Avid tutors because Avid really recommends doing peer tutors. And it's really good for our students to learn how to work in a group, how to speak, how to think. So we are going with peer tutors. And last year was the first year that we did peer tutors, and it went really, 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 really well. And so we're going to continue that. But it's just really, they had to fill out the TRF. It's called the tutorial request form. Each student does on a point of confusion that they have in class. And then they come up and there's a process that they fill out. But the students, as you can see in this group, really help them and ask questions to help them get to their point of confusion and answer it. And it's all student led. It's an incredible process, and it prepares our students on how to, when they're in these rigorous classes, how to problem solve in these classes. So I love that we have Avid tutorials 2 days a week. And so at each building we have a site team. So the site team has a site team plan with goals that are aligned to the school improvement plan. So each site team plan looks different at each building depending on their needs. And that's what they work off of, their goals. They set goals, usually 3, and they set goals to work on with the Avid process at their building. So each team has a site coordinator, and then they really work on school-wide change and how to implement Avid. And so that site team is so important. It's so crucial. And they meet, they have to be Avid trained, so they have to attend Summer Institute and keep up with their professional development. To help lead that across their buildings. So what happens, even if you're not teaching an AVID elective, but you are AVID trained, you should be implementing these AVID strategies in your classroom. And so what does that mean? We call it AVIDizing your classroom. That means teacher facilitated learning, college readiness environment, the inquiry, the thought process, especially at a higher level of thinking, and how to do rigorous reading and writing strategies for our students. And so, in closure, this is an AVID strategy. It's a 3-2-1 activity, and you can share out if you want, but what are 3 things mentioned today in the presentation maybe that stuck out to you? 2 things maybe that you learned about AVID, or 1 thing that you're wondering about. So this is a strategy that we would use. It's an inquiry strategy that we would use with students maybe to close out a lesson. So I'm presenting this to you now. So if somebody wants to maybe share out a 3, a 2, or a 1.
Please use your mic. Jennifer, will you use your mic, please?
You have to teach me how to do this.
Yeah.
You have classes that are AVID elective classes, and so that's one thing, and that teachers who are not teaching in the AVID elective class use AVID strategies throughout the class.
That is correct. Let's give her snaps for Jennifer for sharing out. Thank you. Anybody else want to share a 3, a 2, or a 1?
One thing that I'm wondering about is there an opportunity for us to go and visit an AVID class?
Absolutely. I can send you schedules because we do AVID walkthroughs, monthly walkthroughs. Our site coordinators do it. Our principals should be doing it. And then we have an AVID district team that consists of Dr. Avery Tatum, myself, Ms. Deacon, and then we have an AVID coach, Jesse Knight, that comes in once a week to work with our AVID elective teachers and our AVID trained teachers. So I can send you a schedule of like when our AVID elective classes are, and maybe those who are AVID trained. So you could go in and visit. I highly recommend it.
Give them like another week or 2 to
Yeah.
get routines and everything set. Yes.
Could I ask a question also? I was wondering, the AVID classes, are they only at the are they at the middle school level, or the middle school and the high school?
The AVID elective classes?
Yes.
So they're at the 6th grade center, the middle school, and the high school.
And the high school?
Yes.
So, since to graduate, you need, so many credits in this, so many credits in that, where do those credits fit in?
So it fits in as an elective class, but that's one of the things that we really want to grow and focus on, because, as they get to become juniors and seniors, they really have to make a choice. And we don't want AVID elective to be a choice for them. We want them to be an elective class that they choose every time. Because right now we only have it freshman, sophomore. And then next year we're looking to add a junior class. And then the year after that, a senior class. And so we're looking to build that at the high school.
And it used to be that, like sort of organization skills and things like that, we started kind of in elementary school.
You can definitely start it in elementary school. Yes.
And so this is just improving on those skills, I take it, or
really,
kids
really
caught up.
focused.
And I did notice, did I see in the report that at the middle school or the 6th grade center, you were focusing on those middle level kids? Did I see that in there?
That's our goal. So our goal is to prepare students for rigorous courses when they get into high school. And so usually when you start an AVID elective in 6th grade, you continue to be an AVID elective until you graduate high school. So, but 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, but it is those students usually that aren't confident to take those rigorous courses, but are so capable of taking those rigorous courses. And so to put them in AVID elective to boost their confidence on how, when they, number one, encourage them to take those rigorous courses, and two, how to support them when they do take those rigorous courses. That's really our goal of our AVID elective. Mm-hmm.
I'll finish off your activity. I learned that you do peer tutoring, which I think is really awesome. I remember like doing well in college in math, but I didn't really understand it until I became a math tutor myself and had to try to explain it to somebody else and really think, okay, well, how does this actually work? So that's a great opportunity, and it opens up a whole other part of your brain to really understand things at a deeper level. The thing I have wondering about is what specific metrics are we looking at the high school to kind of show that the investments we're making in AVID are paying off? I mean, are there like specific goals with regards to like breadth of students who are taking and passing AP classes? I mean, what specifically are we looking at as?
So that's a great question, and that's, like I said, this is only I'm going into my second year, but those are things that we should be looking at. Number one, that our AVID enrollment for our elective classes, and I was just looking at this the other day, the students who are enrolled in an AVID elective classes should be taking a rigorous course. So looking at that to see how many students that are in AVID elective for 9th and 10th grade and making sure that they are enrolled in a rigorous course. So we're looking at those numbers currently. And once they get like to the senior level, we look at how many went to college, how much scholarship money, because that's a big focus their junior years, looking at how to apply for scholarships, what scholarships are out there. So there's senior data that we have to collect when they get to be seniors that we have to turn into AVID and look at. So there is data that we look at specifically more towards like senior year, but currently we look at like our AVID numbers, because that should really model your class size numbers. So really around like 24, anywhere from 20 to 24 students. Like, so we're looking at who's in AVID and how they're doing. We have a process too of grade checks, but we also hold a high standard for them, attendance, behavior. And if those students aren't following those or meeting those, then we meet with them like on a contract, and we involve the parents, and we provide a support system for them.
Anyone else?
So when those students who were in AVID in the 6th grade center in the middle school, and they're going into high school, they would meet with guidance counselors and pick out their classes.
Correct.
And so those counselors would know that they had been in AVID classes and then would be telling them about the more rigorous classes that they should be taking, but it's not required of them? Is that how it would work?
We want it to be required of them. That's what we're working on.
Oh.
And our counselors are AVID trained too. So we train our AVID counselors of like what to look for and what students to look for. And students should not be able to drop from an AVID elective without going through a process. We don't want students to drop out of AVID elective. We want them to continue through it. So we wanted to make it really hard for them to drop out of AVID elective. Number one, we don't want them to. We want them to see the meaningfulness of being in it. But we want to make the process hard for them to drop out of AVID.
So the goal would be, as 6th graders and middle schoolers, that we're building their confidence enough that by the time they're at the high school, they know their potential. They know I can take an AP prep class. I can be in these higher level classes. It's okay for me to be smart around my friends and things like that.
I can go to college, or I can pick a really good career path, right?
Yep.
And we give them avenues to explore that. And that's a big focus at the high school, is exploring that college and career readiness through the AVID elective. I wish all students would take it. It's so good for all students.
Right. Any other questions?
How long did you say it's been implemented, the actual program? 2 years?
No, so it started at Urbana Middle School. I think this is their 5th year of implementation with AVID elective. But like I said, this is only my 2nd year coming in, and we're just really looking at strengthening the process. My goal is to add more AVID elective classes and to fill those seats, because we have so many students that I think that are I'm going to be honest with you, that aren't identified that should be an AVID. And so that's a district goal of ours, is to look at the recruitment and retention process. That's a big goal. We were just talking about that today. How do we recruit more students to be an AVID elective? Because I think there's a lot of students sitting out there that should be in AVID elective that we haven't identified. And how do we retain those students? How do we keep them in Avid elective? Yeah.
So Lola, it is year 5, but we've had new administration come in, and so I think we all have realized that we probably should be further along in 5 years at Urbana Middle School than we currently are. But I think we have put some really intentional supports in place in the last 2 years to help us move further along. So I think, unfortunately, there just been so many other challenges happening at UMS. It has not allowed the AVID structure to really take hold and really have the benefits that we really hoped it would have. But I think now we're seeing that. I think more parents are talking about it. Staff members are having their AVID nights. Jesse went around with the counselors to talk to all the 5th grade classes. And at the 6th grade AVID night, there were a ton of parents there. So just seeing it growing in the last year or two is really great. I think we were doing it, but we weren't really seeing, like, to Paul's point, we weren't seeing the benefits in terms of student learning, in terms of our students getting to the high school and taking more rigorous courses. You know, was it impacting our graduation rate? Were we seeing more students go to college because they've been in AVID? And so I think now we have a more systemic program for 6 through 12 that we will be seeing those benefits. So I know saying 5 years, honestly, we should be further along than we are, but I think there's been new principals, new teachers. You know, our 8th grade AVID elective teacher was phenomenal at UMS, and she moved out of state. And so we've just had those kind of changes. We get people trained, and then they move to go somewhere else. And so hopefully we have a really good team now, I think, 6-12. Jesse's phenomenal. She's provided so much leadership and her knowledge of AVID. And I think we have trained administrators at high school now. So they came to us from AVID demonstration sites at their previous districts. So they brought a lot of knowledge with them about AVID. So we're just seeing it start to filter into everything that we're doing, where it isn't just that one-off thing where nobody really understood what it was and people thought it was a remedial program, where it is as far from that as you could possibly get. So.
And that was my question. This was pertaining to high school, because I did have an AP student that was in high school, and it was very easy for him to say, I'm just not getting it, and I'm just giving up. So I'm just really glad to hear that there's been,
That is a great example. That's what we don't want, and we want students to be in this AVID elective to help support them get through those AP classes, those honors classes, those rigorous courses.
Right.
To have those skills to be able to be successful in those courses.
Well, I really appreciate that. That was pretty much what the question was, because it was so easy for him to say, oh, I'm not doing this. So
My goal is to have a wait list for AVID elective, so to where students, that's what they want to choose for their elective, and we have a wait list for our AVID elective classes, because I want students to say, I want to be in there, and that's our overall goal, really, is to build that up, because it's such great skills.
As a parent, though, AVID's been around since my kid has been going through middle school, but it was not really promoted. It wasn't talked about. It's unfamiliar. He is now in high school. He takes AP classes as well, and it's still not being talked about enough. So I think being more informative with parents and giving them the knowledge as well, so they can speak with the students about it, so that they have a choice instead of thinking that it's just a boring class.
Yes, that is part of I love that you mentioned that, because that is part. There's a lot of parents, I think, that don't know about it or have a misconception about it. But same with our students. So that's part of our AVID recruitment plan that we have included in there, is how do we inform parents of AVID elective, and how do we inform students? Because that was a part that we saw that was missing, or just needed to be an area for us to grow. So we're thinking of, like, our AVID elective students, like, doing promotional videos, and then especially for our incoming 6th graders, but also at the high school, finding a way to connect this information, to give this information to all students, because that's not being communicated. So that's something that we have recognized. How do we communicate that to parents? How do we communicate that with current students and change that misconception? Yep, you nailed it.
Anyone else?
I'd like to see the numbers for what has happened over the last 5 years. So because if kids had it, if it's been there for 5 years, and then we could do a comparison. And so I think it's important for you to do the numbers for now. How many avid kids did take the higher level courses? How many the avid kids did go to college? How many kids? And then see how that changes.
Yeah, we have to track that information and turn it into Avid so we can share that with you.
Anyone else?
I would just like to agree with what was said previously. I don't think as a student I've heard much about it.
Yep.
And I don't honestly really know much about it or the classes. So, but it's something I would like to know more about. So I think it could be better, like shown to the students and talked about so we know about it more.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that perspective.
And thank you, Mia. Anyone else? All right. Thank you so much for this great presentation.
Thank you, everybody.
It's now time for study topic 11.1, Urbana High School cell phone guidelines.
All right. I think the mic's on now. So apologies, I stepped away, and you guys went through the public comments really quicker than I anticipated, so apologies for that. I have Ms. Hines joining me this evening. She is one of my assistant principals at UHS who is over student engagement / discipline at the high school. And so since we're here to talk about cell phones, it's natural that she joins me for this conversation. So we'll jump into it. Let's see here. Oh, back. Nope, back. I'll go back. There we go. Okay. All right. So, recognizing the need for a cell phone policy update. So, teachers actually started the conversation with the administrative team last semester, which I actually really applaud because that tells me that the staff is comfortable enough to come talk to us about a need in the building, something that they're seeing that they would like to see a change with. And so as a staff, we collaborated on the issue, and with that we talked about what exactly it was that they were seeing, what was the primary issue, and it just comes down to the lack of student engagement in the classroom, right, where we are seeing cell phones becoming a distraction to learning, and that is the heart of what we needed to correct with that. Simply because we see that we have clear achievement gaps, we see that we are not where we need to be with our student growth, and so this is something that on a joint venture we went through the last half of last semester to look at, okay, what exactly we need to do to update the cell phone policy. And so together at a few staff meetings, we reviewed several policies from several surrounding districts that recently upgraded their policies. So we looked at Champaign, we looked at Decatur, we looked at Springfield, we looked at Bloomington, and we actually had them pulled here from the staff meeting. We looked at all of them to see what they did and to see how they strengthened the cell phone policy. And so together as a staff, we really pulled out the most important pieces of it. And then we did ultimately land on a new policy that we took back to the staff, worked with them, also took it to the student ambassadors at the time, student council leadership at the time, to really get their take on it, their voice on it. And then we started really looking at rolling it out this summer, which we put in some of our summer communication. And really at the heart of it is we're really looking at focusing and valuing instructional time, and also with that, with students being in high school, teaching students how to monitor and use their technology as well. So this is the policy. Ms. Hines?
Okay. And so when we wrote the policy, we wanted to make sure that it provided wiggle room, so to speak. So I don't think, I'll read it. It is the expectation that students will not use electronic devices in the classroom cell phones, earbuds, etc., students are expected to power down or silence their phones and place them away for the period in their pockets, book bags. Some of our teachers do have designated spaces and places in their classrooms where they do have kids put them in it's kind of like a big box, and each one is individual. So, they have keys, so there's a security measure too, so that students don't have to feel angst about their phone walking away. Teachers will remind students of the cell phone policy, which is listed in their syllabus. So all of the teachers were expected to have it in their syllabus and reinforced with a daily reminder at the start of each period. Students will be allowed to use their devices during passing periods and lunch. And then we did have a caveat that we put in, and teacher discretion may be used to allow individual students use for educational purposes. We also discussed, for example, we have had students in the past that do use their cell phones to monitor some health considerations such as blood sugar. So we wanted to make sure that we gave teachers the power to say, hey, you know what, this is a really good tool for what we're doing today. Let's all use our cell phones if it's necessary, or if a student maybe doesn't have access to their Chromebook for whatever reason, then it provides an opportunity for that teacher to still connect with the student and make sure that they have access to their learning. So it's not simply everybody put it in there and be done. Because we do know that we do have teachers that use technology and have navigated it quite well with phones. And so the one other piece that we also wanted to make sure is, because teachers were like, okay, and so what do we do if and when a student chooses not to follow the policy? And so what we made sure to do was have a leveled system for a multitude of reasons. So the first is a warning from the teacher. Hey, Jessica, please put your phone away. Remember our policy in my classroom. The second offense is, a phone call home from the teacher, so that they're automatically building that communication with the family. And before it becomes a larger issue, Mrs. Hines, I really want to help Jessica focus on her learning, and her phone has become a distraction. I've talked to her about it, at least once, and unfortunately it's still a struggle. Can you please help me help her? And then the third offense is another phone call home by the teacher, and a referral is written, which goes to the dean. And then the teacher should be calling home and communicating home, especially because of the referral, which is part of that process. In instances where we end up having repeated, misconduct with phones, we have some other measures in place, but it says that exceed those mentioned previous, include but are not limited to additional restrictive consequences and or the loss of cell phone privileges in the building. So we wanted to make sure that our students, because this is new, it's hard. I think that all of us have some level of, I don't know if I want to say addiction, but that security that we feel with that phone on our hip or in our hand. And so we recognized that this was going to take time, and I appreciated that our teachers recognized that too.
Okay. Let me do the first one.
Okay, and so just an update on how things are going, and why we've kind of done some things the way we've done them with the cell phone. It kind of hit this one, but it was very important to us that students had a chance to reset. This is new. We wanted to make sure that we provided an opportunity for the kid and the student and the teacher to say, you know what, sorry, Mrs. Hines, that's my bad. I'm gonna put the phone away. I hear you, without it being a further issue, without it taking up class time, without it. We're gonna, hey, put the phone away. We're gonna move on. So that was a big piece because, like I said, it's hard. They use their phones for so many things that we really thought it was important to give them a chance to save face, bounce back, reset.
And this policy ensures consistently across all instructional spaces, because we really did spend a lot of time opening days to really work with our staff on, we gave the clear structure. We have the policy in place. And so rolling out with CHAMPS, the district initiative on classroom management, that our staff receive 6 hours, all teaching staff, K through 12 receive that. And so what we did was with the STOIC framework from CHAMPS, we have the structure, we have the new policy that is really rooted in, this is step 1, step 2, step 3, but it also is heavily rooted in relational capacity and AVID strategy of, okay, teachers really working with our students, understanding that, this is the expectation in class, teaching our students, and so it goes to the STOIC framework again, the structure, so now it's teaching the students what is acceptable, what's not acceptable in the classroom, because this is a skill that they're going to need for life. I'm just going to be real with using cell phones, right? When is the time to use it? When is not the time to use it for that? And they need to learn that measure because when I've gone through classrooms this year, I've done several walkthroughs. I've seen not as many cell phones out. I've seen a lot of teachers actually taking the time to teach the expectations for cell phones. And I've seen a lot of cell phones in use that are used for educational purposes. Just the other day, I popped in the orchestra room. They were using their phones with an app to calibrate their instruments. And so that was an appropriate use for their cell phone, and then it went away once they got that, right? And so it's teaching our students the appropriate use of it because, again, to me, that's a critical skill for our students to have for life. But with the clear expectation to help teachers that here's step 1, step 2, step 3, and if they continue to break the rule, then we have measures put in place where they will not have access to their cell phone. And so that's something that we're consistently, we don't have any students yet that are at that point, but when the time comes, we have a plan in place for that.
And so we also really are appreciating the ability for staff to have open conversations with families if and when that need arises, because as Mr. Guzman was saying, with all the training that we're receiving and really building that capacity with the student and their family. One thing I've noticed moving from a middle school to a high school is the difference in the amount of communication from teachers to families, as a former middle school teacher myself. But I think this is it's a smart way to open conversations with families. And it's not, hey, your kid's not following my rule. It's, I want to help your student succeed and I need your help because this is what's going on. Because a lot of times we will have kids, you can't, I'm talking to my mom, and they can end up in my office and I'll be doggone, they show me the phone and yeah, their mom is texting them like crazy, even though mom knows they're in school. So it also helps us to bridge that conversation with families as well. And to date, we have only had 3 actual referrals. So 3 instances where students have gotten to that point where they have been reminded or warned numerous times. And so I feel that it's not perfect. Their cell phones and their kids. But I think that our staff is appreciating that we heard them and that we worked together and collaborated together to create a policy that really helps build our students' understanding of appropriate usage and appropriate times.
And I did talk to our UAA building reps. They have had no feedback to date, nothing negative, nothing that has gone wrong with the cell phone policy. And I've gotten some student feedback, and there is some grumbling a little bit because some of our teachers, they're not used to it. But at this point, I'm okay with that until our students get used to the new stricter policy. Because, again, we're in school to learn.
Oh, sorry, so that's it. Okay.
Yep. Yes.
Any
Board members, any board ambassadors, any comments or questions?
I've definitely noticed a lot less cell phones in classes, or just a lot more structured. Don't have your phone on now, and at the end of class, we have 10 free minutes. You can pull your phone out, which I do think that's a lot more beneficial. And I do know of some classes that do have the boxes, and I think that can be really nice just because I think it can be, kind of tempting, like if there's not much going on. So I've definitely noticed a increase in it, but I do agree it's not too strict where it's, there's no leniency for it. And I think teachers have been pretty understanding with it so far, which has been really nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I agree with what Mia said, and also I think teachers are really enforcing it. I think previous years, they were lenient, and they still are lenient, but specifically in instruction time or we're supposed to be working, they really focus on not having phones out, and also they're consistent every single day, which I think helps with, because if every single day you have the same expectation, it's easier to meet that.
Thank you, Dr. Ivy Tatum, for that CHAMPS training for our staff. That STOIC framework really does help with that structure and teaching students basic behavior expectations.
How much pushback are you getting from parents, if any?
Not really, just some questions regarding being able to use it for medical purposes, like a student with an IEP, a student with a 504, and we were able to work around that, work for alternatives, or if it genuinely needed to be in there, then we wrote it in.
Okay, thanks.
I'm wondering about the two warnings. The two warnings, do they have to be within one class? Since nobody knows, I gave this kid a warning, and then Sherry gave this kid a warning.
Yeah, it's within the classroom.
Okay,
you know, again,
so-
and that's, you know, for teachers, not only to do that with that structure, but it's, again, you know, that building that relational capacity with the students. It's all about how you do it as well, right? And so it just gives the students those multiple opportunities. Now, as we start to see the referrals come in, you know, when we get that, then that's really where we track, okay, this is happening across the board. And then ultimately, they will have to give up the cell phone when they come in the building.
And it's also nice because we can track that data as well, so that if, let's say Jessica's only having that issue in her math class, that gives the place for the dean to start that conversation. Hey, I noticed that you're not having a cell phone issue anywhere else in your day but math. What's going on? How can we support? What's really going on in math? And I will say it opens the door for, yes, for kids to be vulnerable, but to frame it from an avenue of support. Why are you having difficulty in this class? Is there somebody bothering you? You know, do you struggle in math? Like, so it's, and I have seen some of our deans having those conversations, and it's, again, building more and more capacity to help us then communicate with teachers and families how can we support your student.
I was getting questions during the summer. They were anticipating that parents were anticipating that a policy was going to come out, and they wanted to know when is it going to come out. We're trying to improve communication for all of our programs here in the district. How did you start communicating with parents
As
about
soon
this?
as the roller happened, so I think around July 25th, I started rolling that out to families in some summer updates. I did it in 3 or 4 of the summer updates.
So emails?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, emails.
Okay. Are there more tardies because of it?
I would have to double check those numbers. We did
Yeah.
start our tardies earlier this year than we have in our previous
Yeah.
2 that I've been there, and that was strategic as well. But I have found that because most students aren't communicating throughout their class period, they're not making the plan, hey, let's meet over here to have a conversation about X, Y, and Z that came through our Snapchat or our Insta or whatever other app they're using. They are still sociable in the hallways. Yes, they have phones out. And what I've also noticed is when kids are using their phones in the hallway, yes, of course, some of them are texting, but a lot of them are listening to music. Which I think is a natural coping mechanism for many of us. But I've actually seen more responsiveness in the halls, and I would like to hope that that's part of that reason.
Okay. And you might have said this, I might have missed it, but what happens when there's a referral?
It depends on the level. The first time, it typically is a conversation with the dean, what's going on, and then a consequence could be assigned detention. We really want to move away from, you know, exclusionary practices, time up, you know, in our RU or a suspension, and so that's why it's ultimately going to lead to them having to give it up, and I'll say it, use a Yonder pouch. We did purchase some. They're ready to go for when students get to that level.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
I just want to say it's long overdue, and I'm really glad that somebody's doing something about it, because it was time, and change is hard, but
Yep.
if you don't make the change, you don't know.
Yep,
what the outcome
absolutely.
is.
And, you know, we'll see how the school year goes, and if we need to go stricter for future years, then that's the direction we'll go. Yep.
And the deans and I do meet bi-weekly, and so I am getting reports from each of them. I meet with each of them bi-weekly, and that is one of the things that we always discuss. How are you getting more of these referrals? What types of communication are you getting from families when you are calling? What's, you know, the support look like from the family end? And thus far, knock on wood, I don't know if this is wood, but we have had families thanking us. So it's a good feeling.
All right, one last call. All right, thanks again.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
We have 4 administrative reports this evening. First up is a memorandum of understanding between the school district, the park district, first about Splash. Tanya Deacon's going to present for us.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me some time tonight to review the Memorandum of Understanding. I don't know how much you watched grant funding this past year. It's been a real interesting ride for things as far as how we can roll out which grants when. It is exciting that Title II came through a couple weeks ago. That funds a lot of our professional development. And so that one has now arrived, so we're very excited. On the meeting tonight, looking at the Memorandum of Understanding, a year ago, I met with the Park District to talk with them about a grant opportunity. We have a grant that's called the After School Program Grant. We've had it every year for several years, but they opened it up to non-public school facilities to apply for it as well. So I'd asked them if we could work together to create this grant and be able to roll it out, knowing that funding was going to be getting tight. We don't have our ESSER funds anymore. The amount of title is kind of being chipped away as well. So they agreed they wanted to partner that way. We both also see huge value in giving our kids opportunities after school, especially at the 6, 7, and 8 grade levels, keeping them engaged, getting them involved. So the Park District, we took our model from years ago when we were handling the grant, and we reworked it so that it looks similar to what you've seen in the past for those of you that have been on the board for a while. It outlines the financials. What I appreciate about the grant is on page 2, there's a section that talks about the program goals and objectives. And we've committed to each of those goals. The first one, we would go ahead and we already have our data from MAP testing, M-Class, and HMH. So we can use that information to determine, are we making growth with our students academically? We also want to make sure we're trying to contribute to the success of improving our attendance rates. And part of that is they have to be in school during the day to be at the program. So we need to make sure the program is engaging as well, that they will want to continue to be there a few hours after school. The third talks about fostering positive relationships. That is something on our panorama survey that we complete with all of our students. And so we'll use that data as well to see, are they building those relationships? Do they see themselves wanting to be at school? Who are they connecting with? The fourth goal talks about enrichment time. This is where we have the fun classes. The Park District brings in a lot of those for us. Last year, we also partnered with ACT. It's an after-school program organization, and they provided us tools to be able to do a STEAM unit alongside the units that were taking place from the U of I and from the Park District. So we had some variety with those different pieces. They want to continue parts of that as well. Goal number 5 is at the close of each session, we need to check and see how is the attendance looking and what are the needs that we might need to switch up a bit as we head into the next session. And goal 6 is programming staff will provide professional development to support effective implementation. Basically, they will have some staff from the Park District that will help in sessions. The ask from them was if we would be able to hire certified staff here in the district to assist with classroom if there's behavior or little things that come up, or just to support them as they're working with our students. What we've come down to at this point, it sounds like a lot when you hear $116,800. The grant itself goes for UMS and Dr. Preston Williams and Martin Luther King. So we have 3 schools that money goes out towards. We have to look at, we started with the dream of having 4 sessions, 6 weeks each, 4 days a week. That was double the budget. So we had to step back for a little bit. And what it's looking like right now is we would start October 27th, which is a little bit late, but that's something we're working on as well, if we can start to do anything a little bit ahead of time. But we have 3 sessions, October 27th through December 12th, January 26th through March 5th, and then March 23rd through April 30th. We tried to work around all the natural breaks that are in a school year calendar so that we can try to retain as many students as we can within the programming. I have not heard yet about the school district after school programming grant. We do tend to use that one more so in the summertime historically. But that's something we have to look at too if we want to make sure that we're trying to get a program into all of the school buildings. This is just one step. Do you have any questions about this or the programming or?
Board members, ambassadors, any questions about the programming?
This says that the grant will pay up to $75,000.
Yes.
And we're going to actually have $86,000.
Yes.
So, I mean, obviously, that means
He
we're
knows
kicking
that
in.
if I don't have the money, then we have to stop with parts that we have to go. That's why we need to meet every 6 weeks, if not a little more often, just to make sure our numbers are falling into place the way that we need them to. A nice problem to have would be is if we have a couple hundred students staying after school to participate in the program, and we'd have to figure out another way to be able to make sure we keep extending that service.
Okay. And this was a discretionary grant that was scheduled to end, right?
This is a grant that's been available off and on, and honestly, we applied over a year ago, and it was rolled out in November, but that they put a challenge to it, so everybody had to stop. It was intended to be for last year. So this year is now when it's rolled out. I want to say, was it January or February when they announced that they were going to unfreeze it, and then we had another pause around May. But then by June, they told us we could go ahead and get rolling with that one. So it's been an interesting year.
Yeah, I just meant some grants, like the one Tiger Academy had. They say, okay, you get it in 2020, and you can reapply for 2 years, but after those 3 years are up, you don't get it. Was this what that was originally?
Not
A
really.
discretionary grant?
That was this one is a competitive grant.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
it's a
competitive grant. Yeah.
Yes, the
Okay.
one that we have the opportunity for each year is not competitive. They come back to us with the money and then we allocate it usually for summer. But this was competitive for non-public school organizations. And so
Okay.
we partnered.
Okay.
So the Splash program meets every day after school, is that correct?
Historically, it's been Monday through Thursday after
Okay.
school until 5:30 each
Yeah.
night. They have dinner at 4:30 each of those evenings.
Okay.
Problem, I don't know if it's a problem or an opportunity, when we take a look at Mondays, because Mondays are when our buildings have their faculty meetings. And one of the things that I hear a lot about is they want me to make sure we get as many volunteers as we can to supervise the kids during that time frame so staff can go to the meetings. And so when we were looking at the costs and where was it, we did not want to eliminate the program. That was the one thing, that was the number one. So what were we going to do to be able to financially afford it? So we decided we would, and I talked with the principals, Principal Kearns, Principal Carr. Principal Guzman and I haven't talked yet for his after-school program. But they really felt strongly about getting their staff into their Monday meetings. And with all of the PD we've done this year and the new pieces that are finally coming together, I do think it is really important that the staff are there with those sessions.
So the only elementary school is Dr. King, is that correct?
And Williams, DPW.
Oh, Williams too, okay.
Yep.
Is there a bigger need than this for after-school care for our students and?
In those areas, there
Yeah.
tends to be, yes, higher poverty level.
Yeah, so what are they doing between now and October? I mean,
That's an
Yeah.
excellent question. And anything ideas that you want to bring this way, it's been a challenge. But we have a meeting tomorrow to discuss this further and determine what can we do to start it sooner.
okay, good luck.
Yes, thank you.
And this will be coming the MOU is coming back to us for a vote at our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, please come prepared to vote. And if you have any questions, I guess between now and then, to reach out to administration. All right, anybody else have questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Next administrative report is our 6th-day student enrollment report.
And it really isn't a report, more so a one-pager. You should have, I'm looking for my copy. Oh, here it is. You should have a one-sheeter that just has numbers on it. And this is a spreadsheet that we have been using. Every year, we add a year and we drop off a year. So prior to adding 2025, we had data from 2007. We've been using this as long as I've been in the district, so over 20 years. One thing I shared with Paul, as an idea of something I wanted to broach with you guys tonight, is times have changed since we started doing the 6th-day enrollment. I think years ago, it was a way to see how we were registering students, where students were enrolled, just kind of what everyone classically, you all probably did the same thing when you looked at this form to see, you know, which building had more students and which building had less and where we lost and where we gained. Well, when we started doing this, and I don't know when we started it, I could go back and probably find the original spreadsheet, but it's been over 20 years for sure. Times since then, we have a lot more school code guidance and a lot more rules and regs around dropping students, around when we can drop students. And so I would like to propose, I'm sharing it tonight because it's something we've always done and I didn't have guidance from the board to not continue to do it. We do not drop students who are kind of like a no show up, like they have been registered, they're still active in our system, but we're not allowed to drop them until after their 10th day, after our 10th day of school. So when you look at this data and look at our differences from last year to this year, it looks like we have 126 new students, mostly at the secondary level. Unfortunately, also at the secondary level is where we have the most students who have not shown up for school yet. So, and until the 10th day of school, we're not allowed to do anything except call, email, go out and do home visits. We are required by the school code to do whatever we can to try to contact families. Unfortunately, there are families who they were with us last year, they may have moved somewhere else, and they don't know, oh, I actually have to go to the school and withdraw, or I actually have to go and tell them that we're not coming back. And so we're not allowed to do anything in terms of removing those students from their classes or dropping them until after they've not shown up for school at least 10 days consecutively. So our 10th day of school was actually on Friday. So they have, all of our office staff and our principals received emails from me after the 6th day, probably Monday or Tuesday of last week, saying, hey, here are all your kiddos that we don't see attendance for, but they're in Skyward, they're registered, they're showing up as active. We need to do whatever we can to figure out where these kiddos have gone. And so for the last few days, that's what they've been doing, is they've been reaching out via email. Unfortunately, I was at the 6th grade center when they were calling a family and there was no parent guide. The parent guardian number 1 phone number didn't work. Parent guardian number 2 phone number didn't work. Grandma's phone number didn't work. And we finally found an uncle who doesn't even live in state who happened to answer the phone, who was listed as an emergency contact. So it really is a challenge. We're required by the code to actually note, and when I come back and do the fall housing report is when I get to share with you guys after our fall housing data is turned in at the very end of September, like October 1st, September 30th. So by that point, we have a really good idea of where everyone has gone. We know if we know how many students went to private school. We know how many students went to uni. We know how many students went to Rantoul or Champaign, or who moved out of state, because those record requests start coming in. There are a lot of districts like Chicago Public Schools that don't even start until today. So we probably won't start getting record requests from CPS until another week or two. So I'm giving you the data for what we have right now, but just know that when we come back and do the fall housing report, this will look a little different. The positive thing is that we're not showing negative numbers. We do have an increase of at least 126 students district-wide, and 97 at the secondary level and 29 at the K-5 level. So that's a positive, because our growth has been pretty stagnant and just kind of flat in the last couple years. But again, I wouldn't put a lot of, making decisions or going around really talking to principals or schools yet about their numbers until we're able to come back and really give you better data, just cleaner data around what our real growth number really is. And in the future, I said to Paul, I'd like to just recommend we don't even look at the sixth day enrollment report anymore. I'm happy to come back and do like a 10th day enrollment when we know we've dropped some students. And then we can come back and do the fall housing again in early October like we usually do. So are there any questions about, I think these are the numbers that we basically predicted. We give our principals projections. That's what Mary Ann uses to make her budget decisions. We kind of project the number of students we're going to have at every level. I think our projections were really where they needed to be. And we just kind of have to wait now for another week or two to see how many students we drop. And on the flip side, another reason why this report also has been a hard one over the years is just like I just said, CPS started school, a lot of our schools in Illinois that start after Labor Day. We also have families who are in our community, despite our efforts in sending emails and despite the news and the News Gazette and everybody in our community saying it's back to school time, we still will have families walk in this week who say, oh, I didn't realize school had started. And because that Labor Day is sometimes a trigger like, oh, it's Labor Day, school must have started. So on the flip side, while we may drop a few students, we also are going to pick up a few students this week. And so I think after we have another week or two to see where we get record requests and find out more about where students who haven't shown up might be, this is kind of where we are right now as of last Monday was our 6th day. But we'll have much better data for you in the fall housing and a 10th day report. So are there questions or areas of concern that anyone wants to? I know I heard someone mention Yankee Ridge earlier, and Yankee Ridge is pretty much right where we thought they'd be. They ended the year with about 520, and so they may have a few more students. Now, it says a difference of 51, but remember, when they started the year, they were under 500, and then January, after we had some immigration shifts, we registered a lot of new students at Yankee Ridge from January through March, so that is where some of that surplus came from. 6th grade center is right where we thought we'd have 319 actually, so 307 is a good place to be. I think the last time I checked their numbers, they were about 325, but that also included some students who haven't shown up yet. It's great to see some pluses at the high school, but again, the high school had a long list of students who have not shown up yet, and we are kind of trying to figure out where they might be. So
I think I'm more concerned about the class sizes, and I know that will be coming later.
Yes, we
but
get
to
that.
start, to
Yes.
start the school year with a very full class is
Sure.
probably challenging. So I'm more concerned about that than
right now
the
we
number in
don't
the
have
total
any.
school.
So I know you'll get that report. We do an August/September combo, but as of right now, we don't have any classes that are right at or beyond the class size adjustment level, which is fantastic. So we don't have any class size adjustment TAs that are in use right now because they're really balanced for currently.
What was the number of students when we did all that redistricting stuff? We received graphs that showed the optimal number for students at a school and the number that we shouldn't go over. What was the number we shouldn't go over for?
It was
DP?
different per building.
I was going to say it depends on the building.
I know that, but for Yankee Ridge.
So Yankee Ridge has 28 classrooms, and so when you think about that compared to a building like King that has 15, for example, that is why you see 526 because they can handle more. They have more classrooms, so they have more. They have 20 students per class, so that's why their number is a little bigger. I don't have that chart in front of me, but we could pull out the redistricting report. But again, based on the projections from our demographer, I think we are still pretty spot on, John, would you say, based on the numbers that we had from RSP? Okay.
It's all been really consistent.
Yeah, I
And
think so.
again, we haven't run all the 26
Yes.
numbers because we were waiting for drops today.
Yep.
So, but we can report a little more later on 26 numbers.
So I'm glad you asked about that. So when we do the fall housing report, we can show that chart from the, from the redistricting report. So I know last year we were pretty spot on with what RSP gave us in terms of their demographics. And I mean, I don't see any reason to think we wouldn't be there again this year, but we have to wait and see until we do all the drops.
Going back to the question as to whether or not we should continue with the 6-day report, it doesn't really matter to me. I like having the historic numbers in general.
It is kind of nice.
So whatever, whether it's a 10-day report or the fall housing report, as long as it stays consistent and we've got a historical reading of how the buildings have been filled over the past X years, that's all I would really care about as a board member. But choosing
Okay.
arbitrarily the 6th day doesn't really matter much to me.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on, our next administrative report is 12.3, our fiscal year 26 budget discussion. Mary Ann.
Thank you. I know you guys are really just ready to go for it too. So, will you be my clicker for me? Are you? Okay. So tonight I'm going to be presenting the final budget for fiscal year 2026, and just as a little disclaimer, the budget is built on well-informed assumptions using best available data and financial trends. So for this presentation, we'll walk through a review of FY25 performance for the Ed Fund, key budget assumptions and highlights for FY26, a breakdown of Ed Fund revenue and expenditures, a summary of all fund balances, and finally we'll have some time for discussion and questions. So as of June 30th, 2025, which is when the fiscal year ended, our revenues exceeded budgeted expectations by approximately $500,000. This was largely due to increase of EBF funding that we received and our geothermal credits. On the expenditure side, we went over budget by just about $1 million, and a significant factor for this was the Provena tax settlement. It was not anticipated in the FY20 budget, and we ended up having about $3.7 million of the 5.3 come out of the Ed Fund. Despite that, with the timing of property tax payments and the conclusion of the Provena settlement, the Ed Fund is in a strong position starting FY26 with a balance of approximately $17.8 million. And you'll see on your guys' budget summaries, we just took off that Provena piece. The TIF 3 will no longer be there. So let's look at some of the revenue assumptions for FY26. Property taxes, which make up about 70% of our total revenue, is based on a 2.9 CPI increase and an estimated $7 million of new construction. And this should bring in about $1.8 million of additional funds into the Ed Fund. And we're continuing to assume a 99% collection rate. The district will receive an additional $32,000 in vocational funding from TIF 4 this year. However, TIF 4 will expire in December. So this will be the final year for that specific revenue source. However, we will be seeing the increase in the EAV due to that TIF expiring. So you'll be seeing a balloon levy in December because we're going to want to make sure that we capture that additional EAV. The state has approved its FY26 budget, and that included increased allocations for EBF. And since our district is remaining Tier 1, we are anticipating an additional $933,000 in EBF funds. And all of those funds currently go straight to the Ed Fund. We are budgeting a $100,000 decrease for corporate personal property replacement taxes, which is CPPRT. After seeing inflated CPPRT in FY22 and 23, 24 and 25 drastically decreased, and so we're just kind of adjusting what our anticipated revenue is going to be for FY26. We've also budgeted $950,000 in a one-time energy incentive related to the solar projects at Thomas Paine and the 6th grade center. This is an increase of $100,000 from last year. We budgeted $850,000 for these incentives, but it is a 1 year only. So next year you will be seeing that about $1 million coming off. On the expenditure side, salary and benefit increases are based on the collective bargaining agreement and board approvals, which totals about $2.88 million, which included about $160,000 for medical insurance. After consulting with our electricity broker and reviewing past data, we're projecting about a $60,000 increase for utilities. And, sorry, I'm making sure I'm watching both things. And then with the district share of the Indoor Aquatic Center, or the UIAC, the operating loss is going to be $299,000, which is $43,000 higher than last year. This agreement runs through April 2027. And so this is just our portion. The Park District also has their portion of it too. They have a new director, Rachel, who's been in place since May. So we're going to continue to work with her on how to on strategies to mitigate these ongoing losses. Debt service is showing 3 payments for, this is Fund 30 for budgeted in FY26. One of these was paid on time, and it was paid on July 1st, which has historically been made in the prior fiscal year. So moving forward, you'll see just the 2 payments instead of the 3 on your budget summaries. But due to the Bravina payments and some unknowns, we paid on July 1st this year, and so you'll see a little bit more of a cost on that. The transportation rates increased 4% through our agreement with First Student. And transportation is a mandated categorical, which means that we must provide it and the state has to reimburse us, but we don't control what the state's reimbursement rate is. Facility sales tax receipts are projected at $4.7 million in revenue, and $3.8 million of this is transferred into debt service for payments on the bonds that we have. So we have series 2010, 2021, and 2024. In FY25, the district issued approximately $23 million in construction bonds for the 6th grade center, as well as an additional $3.5 million in working cash bonds. And those working cash bonds are what supports our technology and summer capital projects. The tort fund is seeing an increased expenditure due to higher insurance premiums and legal fees. And then we're also budgeting approximately $146,000 for life safety projects in FY26. Here is your summary to it breaks it down by your fund balance, the projected budgeted revenues, your expenditures, whether or not there was a surplus or deficit, and then your projected fund balance for the end of FY26. This is also in your handouts as well. And then on this slide, you'll see the highlights of our revenue sources. This is basically just highlighting the fact that most of our revenue in the ed fund comes from local resources, which would be like property taxes. And then our state funds are about 25%. And then this slide breaks down your expenditures for the ed fund and where the majority of those things are going. And I will be bringing the final budget for your approval on September 16th. And I know I gave you a lot of information there, so do you have any questions?
Board members, any questions? Go ahead.
And when you gave us the tentative budget summary in June 3rd,
Yep.
it was 62,054, 602, 62,050, don't I wish it was 62,000, 62,054,602. And then this time is 62,755,941.
Okay.
And I was wondering why it was so much more. It's $701,000 more. And the reason I was asking is when we had the meeting in August,
Mm-hmm.
it was mentioned in conjunction with salary increases for substitute teachers, for that when we haven't hired a teacher yet, but they're a new teacher, we figure they're going to be a new teacher, young teacher, that we generally put in $65,000 as the pay.
Okay.
And, but that just rang a bell with me. And I went back and looked at all of the sixth grade center graphs that we were given. And it said that new teachers were coming in at $60,000 instead of $65,000. So if those 9 new teachers, I mean, that would be $45,000
Yeah.
more. So just the sixth grade center alone, that's a fair amount of money. But if you looked at all of the teachers, I was just wondering, did that change? Did the number change?
I can speak to this a little bit.
I think it was May, we were given the $60,000 number for
Yeah.
the sixth grade center teachers.
I think the best response to you in this context is it's all a good guess, right? So you're taking the information that you have at a moment in time and making a projection based off of it. In May, we had less data it wasn't as accurate. So now, I mean, the numbers here is still a very educated guess. That's why that was the first thing I led with. You're taking information. Salaries, I looked on August 19th, and then I looked to double check something on like August 23rd, and the data had already changed based off of people coming in and out and just updating the system. So these numbers are going to be more accurate because in May I didn't have as much information.
Okay. But I guess what I'm asking is, if you don't know what teacher is coming in to that spot, what is the number you plug in there?
Well,
you know we're going to hire a teacher. So what is the number you're going to plug in there?
So that was a conversation that Mary Ann and I had in the last couple of weeks. And so there was a recent meeting where I remember Dr. Ivory Tatum saying that I think she said, and she said it as a question. She didn't say it as a statement. I remember her kind of saying, do we budget $65,000 for a teacher? And so Carol Baker's last year, I can't remember if that year we had been budgeting $50,000 or $55,000 for vacant teacher positions. And so we increased that to the $60,000 just because we need to increase as time goes along. And then when I was speaking with Mary Ann, I said, you know what, I kind of want to increase that a little bit more just because we don't know who we were hiring and I don't want to fall short, especially with medical costs. We've had some different incentives in terms of matching year for year on the salary scale. And so that was adopted in the last contract negotiations. And so I kind of wanted to have a safeguard. That's what she and I talked about. And so that's another reason why the number has changed. And we can't predict who we are hiring, but we want to make sure that we have budgeted an amount if we come in with hiring more experienced teachers.
Okay, so the number did change from May to June.
I mean. I
From May
don't-
to August, yeah. I
Yes.
think-
Me saying,
Yes.
do we do 65? I remember.
I
Yeah.
remember you kind of, and I didn't chime in because I didn't figure it was my place, but I wanted to chime in now since I've been involved in these conversations, because it was just kind of a statement. It wasn't a factual thing. It was just like, hey, I think this is what we budget for that.
And allowing for more is good. It's better to be conservative, which is the approach that we've always taken over the years, is to be as conservative as we can be.
Which is also
which is
in
also
this.
what I think what Mary Ann has done.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the preliminary budget was about a 2% deficit in the operation, in the ed fund, and this is a little, the refined is a little less than, it's a little more than 1% now, so it's shrunk a little bit. And I think we're still being conservative. I mean, I think that's part of why it's still showing up as 43,000 as a deficit. So I'm not horribly concerned about that. We've entered most of the years I've been on the board with a bigger projected deficit. But things usually come in a little better than that because we're so conservative in our approach, both with regards to our expenses and our revenue. All right. Any other questions? All right. I thank you very much, Mary Ann.
Thank you.
This will be again an action item on our next agenda.
I was wondering if the transportation costs include the cost for getting kids to and from the middle school and the sixth grade center, or is that just the transportation to school for everybody?
It is, the 4% increase is what is projected. We have not included any additional routes from last year. So this is so I don't know if I'm understanding the question.
So that
right,
does
Well-
not include the cost for the activity bus.
It doesn't include
Yep.
the cost
Oh.
for the activity bus, so we'll be given
Unless
that
you want
at
us to
some.
add in the gas, we pay for it. Other than that, it is,
That-
this is
the
just
co-
yellow buses and MTD.
The activity bus would come out of O&M, right?
Okay, okay. And I was wondering if the cost for Tiger Academy is in here.
It is
Um,
for the portions that are not covered in the grant.
okay, because I thought that we didn't get the grant this year.
We didn't, but we've said multiple times, knowing that the grants were going away, we'd planned all along to bring in the Tiger Academy, those 4 staff members into the district budget, which is why we were doing some of the shifting at the high school level in terms of looking at those courses that we moved some teachers from the high school who were able to go into vacancies that we had at the middle school, so that saved us those 4 positions. So we were able to bring the Tiger Academy 4 staff members into the district budget, knowing that the grants were going away this year.
Right, and what I would like, and that was a discretionary grant, where if you get the grant, you know in 3 years you're not gonna have the grant. And so I think when we have those discretionary grants, I would like to request, because Dr. Wiemelt did tell us every single presentation, this grant is going away. But when we were thinking about expensive purchases and things like that, that was not top of my mind. And so I think that's an important thing for us to know and to keep top of mind when we're making our decisions. Because we knew that before we voted on the sixth grade center, for example. We knew that was going to happen. And so I just think, I'm wondering if central office couldn't make a list of the discretionary grants that we have and when they're going away, and let us have a list of those so that we can, I can keep them in my folder.
Sure.
So that.
Well, good thing we don't have any more. So the only grants that we have now are our state grants, our federal grants, and
We don't have
all
any.
the discretionary grants that we would have had to pay for staff are, those were only here at Tiger Academy, and we don't have them anymore.
Okay.
So we have our state grants, we have our title and federal grants. Is that right, Marianne? I don't think we have any. We have a couple small little
small,
community
like, local.
services. Well, we have a couple of those City of Urbana, small, programming grants where you pay a stipend for something, but they're not paying for people's salaries. That's what you're talking about, right? Just grants that are paying for people's salaries. So the only grants that are paying for people's salaries are either our title grants, and I think that would be it, our title.
I think, yeah, because Title
think
II, I think, is not
Yeah,
paying for
Title
any.
II is all PD, so the only grants that pay for salaries are title, and those are federal funds, so we don't have any more of those currently. Doesn't mean we won't continue to write for them when they become available, but finding grants that are gonna pay for salaries right now in the grant climate that we're in are pretty far and few between, so.
I
do
was
have
amazed.
pre-K. Sorry to interrupt, but
Oh,
pre-K.
pre-K,
yeah,
the
sorry.
pre-K for all
Mhm.
grant,
Yep.
thank you, yes.
Okay.
But that is also still a state, that's not a discretionary grant, it is a state grant
Yes.
that we, yes.
It's,
If we didn't get the pre-K for all program, we would be having a really
that's pretty
difficult
much every year.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what,
yeah,
yes.
that's not a,
That's
yeah.
the truth.
Yes.
Right. No, I was amazed at how much that 60,000 to 65,000, that's why I asked you at that meeting, how much? Because, and then I looked back, but that increased the operating costs quite a bit. So, I thought, gee, district-wide, that would have increased it quite a bit more.
We want to see this sticker shock. Just wait till we sign our new UEA contract. It's gonna, have a huge impact on our 26-27 budget. I mean, if you're looking at what Champaign is paying, the Champaign passed their contract just this last week, and I believe the first year was 6%. Whereas ours is 4.5% this year. And I wish we could give 6, 7, 8%, but we're gonna have to
And they capped it at 6 probably because they had to for TRS.
Yeah.
purposes.
Oh, right,
So
that's
go-
right. Yeah, they can't go beyond 6, but they basically maxed out their contract, so we're gonna have heavily increased expenses next year. So enjoy this year while we have it. So, anyway.
I think one thing to just share what a task this is for Mary Ann is part of what she does with HR is she's not just plugging that 60 or 65 number in. She's looking at every single teacher who left, every single teacher who took that person's place, how much we are paying them, and that is the number that you are looking at. So we don't know that in June, but we know that right now. Like, we know every single person who resigned and left and who their replacements are and what their replacements make. So we're not making an educated guess about those things anymore. The only things that we're making guesses about would be vacancies and long-term subs. But we've plugged in every person who replaced someone with their real salary. So it isn't a 60 to 65 number. It is what we're actually paying them, and what their insurance costs might be. And so she's able to take real numbers. That's why it's so hard to do this in June, because it's all made up, like in terms of we don't know who's leaving, we don't know who's coming back, we don't know who's gonna leave in the summertime. But by this point, we know who's teaching, we know the butts in the seats, we know who the long-term subs are, we know where we have openings, like we have teaching assistant openings all over the district. So we have placeholders there because we don't have people filling those positions. But as soon as we hire someone, then we put in their actual salary. So, yeah. So I think this is a much more accurate
Definitely, yeah.
than what we would have given you in June, because we've actually plugged in the actual salaries, so.
And if you ever want to meet and go through it with me, you're more than welcome to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. All right. Any other questions? All right, again, I'll be prepared to vote on this in our next meeting. Our last administrative report this evening, thank you for your patience, Shauna, is the adult education budget.
All right, thank you for having me this evening. I'm going to go through our budget, and also this is the time of year I usually do our kind of a brief overview of our outcomes and our goals for the coming year, so that you all, since we don't do a typical school improvement planning process, I give you an update at this time as well on that. But I will be quick because I know it's been a long meeting. I think you have all of this in front of you. My outline. I just want to highlight a few things, and then I'll take any questions about this portion. We also had quite a journey this summer. We were told that we were getting our federal monies in June. We were told that they had been allocated, signed off on, that they were going to come to us. And then on the last day of the fiscal year, at the end of the day at like 4 o'clock that afternoon, June 30th, we were told, no, sorry, you won't be getting them. They are on pause and under review, which was a little bit harrowing because, as you can see, in relation to the money that we get from the Illinois Community College Board, which is our primary funding source, that was a pretty big chunk of money. That almost $135,000 is a big portion of our budget. So I had a lot of sleepless nights, I guess you could say. But thankfully, a few weeks ago, that money was released to us finally. So I was very excited that it happened before I came to present our budget. It is about a decrease of $1,800 from last year. And that's not based on anything we have or haven't done. That is just a result of whatever money the state has from the federal government that they then distribute to programs. And actually $1,800 less is a win in a lot of ways compared to the cuts that we've had in previous years. You'll notice on there that we do not yet have the federal civics grant. However, we have been told that the state does have that money from the federal government and they will be releasing it to us. We just don't have the amount yet, so I did not include it. But I am very hopeful that we will get that. Last year we got about $52,000 from that grant, so if we get that again this year, that will be very helpful. And then our state basic, you can see the amount there. It's about $5,000 less than last year. Our performance money went up about $1,300 because, as you'll see in a little bit, our outcomes are increasing, and they do that performance formula on a 3-year rolling basis. So as these years continue to pass and our higher outcomes are in the 3-year window, that performance money will hopefully continue to increase. All of the other revenue that you see below that is pretty much what it was last year. The only difference is that we are not partnering with the university-wide this year for the citizenship grant. They, for various reasons that aren't related to anything we did, it's just more political and things like that, they are managing that grant on their own this year, if they are even able to have it at all. And that was about $7,500, but it really only paid for the instructor. It didn't pay for anything other than that program itself, so it's not a loss to our operations. And we do have still a good relationship with them, so we are making referrals of our students who need the citizenship classes to them. Oh, sorry. I didn't know I was... Sorry about that. Are there any questions? You can see I have some deficit there. Again, as Paul said earlier, I also budget very conservatively. Okay. Maybe it's my paper on the thing. That was you that time? Okay, I'm like, I am not touching it. Okay. But if we get the civics money, that will help, and it will also help us be able to add a couple of teachers because our ESL class sizes right now are very large. But right now we don't have that money, so I did not include it. Are there any questions about the budget aspect before I go on to our programming? Sure.
You hear lots of things that are coming out of Washington and such. And the last thing I heard was based on not having English language classes that are for non-citizens. I mean, was there any follow-up on that, or I would be concerned about that?
Yes, that would be very concerning. Thank you for asking. We have not gotten official word from anyone that we are supposed to deny service to anyone because of their documentation status. I do know of some programs in the state that have proactively said that they have to check for documentation before they will allow enrollment in their classes in anticipation of the federal government putting that down or making funding contingent upon that. But the Illinois Community College Board has not definitively said you need to require documentation before you provide service. And so therefore, I am not proactively doing that.
And that's where you get your information, that's where you get your directive from?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
I thought state law required that school districts not ask for immigration status. Is that just K-12, K through 12? It's not for adult ed?
Correct.
Oh.
Well, let me back up a little bit. Our rules are guided by the Illinois Community College Board. And the federal government could say, we will give you these federal dollars contingent upon you only serving people with documentation status with these federal dollars. And the federal government has talked about that, but there's lawsuits and everything going on right now that we have not been told from our funding source, which is the Illinois Community College Board. I have not been told or given a directive that I need to require documentation in order to serve students. So I have chosen not to proactively do that because it goes against our mission, frankly, and why we do the work that we do. So if it comes to pass that the federal government says we have to do that, then we'll figure out what we need to do. But until then, we are moving forward as we always have. Any other questions about the budget aspect? Okay. Just to give you a few quick program updates, these are the programs that we offer. As I said earlier, the citizenship grant, we are no longer the fiscal agent of that, but we are making referrals to that program when our students qualify for the citizenship classes. We are making referrals to the University Y when they get their classes up and running. We were approved for a new bridge class, a college and career class, which is exciting because that is a class that is going to help particularly our younger students, help them identify what career pathway they want to explore and potentially then move on to once they finish their diploma. I also want to make a note that we have partnered with OSF for our clinicals for CNA. We're going to hold classes there still and do our labs there, but we are developing a new partnership with Brookdale Assisted Living Center because, as you probably know from the news, OSF is changing to behavioral health primarily, and so they won't have the sorts of beds that our students, CNA students, will require to learn the skills they need that the state requires them to have. They won't learn that really through a behavioral health setting. So we are in the process of developing a partnership with Brookdale to have our students go there, and we're very excited about that. And United Way helps us fund some of our CNA, as you could see in the budget. As Sherry mentioned earlier, we also have the Tiger Market, which is very exciting to hear we'll have a little more funding this year. We also offer our students bus tokens, and we have a parenting class in partnership with CU Early for our students. Both students who are parents are a priority for that, but also students who aren't yet parents but are interested. It's a great class that our students very much enjoy. I just want to give you a couple quick things because this is really important in terms of understanding our data, and this year being able to understand how great it looks. Our students count in our data set according to the state once they've hit 7.5 attendance hours. But they don't count in our outcome data until they hit 12 hours of attendance. Once they hit 12 hours of attendance, they count in our outcomes. And then, but the problem is they can't actually test for the outcome until they hit 40 hours. So a lot of issues in adult ed with student retention can be challenging because you can have a lot of students come for 12 hours and then we can't find them or they stop attending. They never make it to 40 hours, so they don't get to take their second test, but they still count in our outcome set. So unlike K-12, where you count students who take a test in the, each spring, or you take for MAP, you take the fall compared to the winter compared to the spring. Ours, they take the pre-test and then they're counted regardless of whether or not they ever take a post-test. So it can really affect our outcomes if we're not focusing on retention and keeping our students there for the 40 hours. Students can earn a level gain by, like I said, increasing their score, a level gain on reading test if they're a high school diploma student, or the CASAS test if they're an ESL student, or if they're a CNA student and they get their license, or if they earn a high school diploma. And the other really important factor for us in terms of funding is enrollment. And this is one huge celebration for us. Our enrollment went up significantly last year, and that really has to do with, we don't really recruit, but we do advertise. But also once students walked through our doors and started enrolling, we really did, the team did a great job of trying to make sure they stayed and you know, got to the 12 or 40 hours eventually. So that's very exciting to have that number go back up almost to pre-COVID levels. One thing that's very unusual in adult ed that all of my colleagues talk about is that it is so hard to increase enrollment and increase outcomes because, again, the more students you have, the more opportunity you have to lose them in between that 12 and 39 hours. But last year we managed to do that. We managed to increase enrollment significantly, and we surpassed or met all of our goals given to us by the Illinois Community College Board, as you can see there. In terms of the tests that I explained, the state goal was 41%, and 50% of our students made a level gain. And a level gain is usually more than a grade level, and it's after 40 hours. So if you think about that, how short of a time that really is that we have and how our students make a gain even in that short time, I think that speaks to the work that our staff do to really give them the skills that they need to start on a path towards better career and outcomes and college outcomes. Post-test rate is there because, again, they look at how many of our students stay long enough to post-test. We just met that goal, which I'm very happy with, to increase enrollment so significantly and still hit that 65% is pretty outstanding. And again, I want to recognize my staff and all the work that they did. We had 41 high school graduates last year, which was fantastic. We had 92 students complete either the CNA course or one of our bridge courses. And then our average attendance hours stayed about the same, which is another celebration because, again, more students, but still keeping them there for the number of hours that they needed to be there. And then these are our goals for this current year. Most of these are set by the state. Our enrollment is set by us. I just want to keep increasing it just a little bit. But not get too big to where we can't continue to meet the needs of our students. And then those other percentages for the post-test rate and those measurable skills gains, those are set by the state. We want to continue our bridge and ICAPS enrollment. That's our CNA and our bridge programming, and keep our average attendance hours about the same. I put it a little higher, but relatively the same. Any questions?
Board members, any questions or comments?
When do your classes meet?
So our high school diploma classes meet, they can choose a morning, afternoon, or evening session. Morning and afternoon sessions are Monday through Thursday, and evenings are Tuesday and Thursday.
Time in the evening?
5 to 8 in the evenings.
Okay.
And then our ESL classes also kind of follow us the same sort of schedule.
With adult students having jobs and coming in the evening, is that a problem with starting at the 5 o'clock hour?
It doesn't seem to be. We have had a few students that say they need to come in a little late because they have to drive across town right after they get off work. And we have gotten pretty strict about our attendance rules, which is another reason why, you know, sometimes when you raise that accountability, students when you raise the bar, they'll raise to meet it. But we tell them, if you have a job or you have childcare issues or anything like that, just let me know and we'll work with you. And so we do have students that are allowed to enter a little late if they have
Right,
a 5
because
o'clock.
we've had that conversation where they're reliable to keep their jobs, but
Yes.
we want them to keep their jobs. and-
Yes,
okay.
absolutely. Yes, we don't want anybody to give up their job in order to come to us. We don't want that, no.
Anyone else? I just want to say that your numbers this year are absolutely outstanding.
Thank you.
Amazing work for you and your team.
Thank you so
I
much.
mean, I'm blown away.
Thank you. We are too. The team, it was so fun when we got together in August and just to be able to recognize all of their hard work and celebrate the work that they did to get here, to raise everything so much was just, it was fun to be with them and celebrate that.
Congratulations.
Before Shauna goes, I was going to recognize, thank you, Paul, for saying that, but I was also going to say thank you for your leadership, Shauna. I know you had a strong vision for where you wanted to take the program, especially the high school diploma program. I don't think anybody here realizes how important the high school diploma program is just to Urbana. Like, that 41 is huge, that they're not getting GEDs, they're getting real high school diplomas, and that is, it's great for our students who just don't survive in a traditional setting and need something like adult ed for lots of different reasons. And just seeing your vision come to fruition in the numbers, and you know, one of my favorite sayings is a rising tide lifts all ships. And you rose the bar and your staff rose with you, and you can see it in the numbers. So I wanted to thank you too for your vision as a leader.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yep.
And you know, it's important for me to recognize the support that the district and the board gives us as well. We are a very unique program in that we're part of a school district. There's not many of us in the state. And the only way we have been able to continue to operate is through the support of the district and the board. We're mostly funded by grants, but we do get a lot of help from the district. And without that help, we wouldn't be able to continue making the difference that you saw we make in those numbers. So thank you so much to all of you for your support.
Thank you, Shauna. All right, I think that's it for our administrative reports this evening. We do have a pair of action items left on our agenda. First up is 13.1. So resolution authorizing and directing the sale or disposal of personal property. This is to basically dispose things in accordance with state law. Particularly, this is a variety of electronic devices and a wide variety of different books, textbooks, teachers' manuals, and guides. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Hickson?
Yes.
Member Marabou?
Yes.
Member Jones?
Yes.
Member Langendorf, yes. Vice President Axley?
Yes.
President Pulaski?
Yes, motion passes. 13.2 is basically item. Sorry, may I start over again? This is an action item on our agenda that was triggered by a complaint that was filed on June 6th with regards to a personal matter. So what typically happens under board policy 2:105 in matters like this is that the district commissions over basically a finding of fact and recommendations which the board receives. And since it's a personnel matter, this was discussed in closed session on June 17th. And what happens with this particular motion is that if passed, the board would accept the findings in that report that was discussed on June 17th and then authorize the president of the board to send finding letters to the individual who filed the complaint. Now, on June 17th, we did meet in closed session, and a different complaint was filed on after the fact, basically stating that the board did not follow the Open Meetings Act with regards to that closed session. We receive a number of these types of complaints that are made to the Attorney General's office throughout my time as president. I can't recall a single one of them that was found to be where the district is found to violate a state law. But I can't remember all of them. Maybe one. Okay. So the board has, what I'm asking, all that is basically stated in a way not to break any sorts of privacy rules here. But the open question is, does the board wish to vote on this tonight, or do you wish to defer until the state attorney general's office makes a finding of a fact with regards to the complaint that we did not meet appropriately on June 17th with regards to Open Meetings Act? My personal feeling on this is that, and it's backed up by our own lawyers, is that the district did not violate any state laws on June 17th with regards to meeting and discussing this report, and then we had no action following the exec session. So, and that is all borne out by the public meeting minutes from June 17th, which we approved. So there was no motion taken that night. That's what we're doing tonight, is basically formally accepting the report that was discussed on June 17th. So all that said, does the board wish to accept the report tonight, or do you wish to wait until after this second motion from, that might take months. So what happens on those reports is that we're basically informed by the Attorney General's office that a complaint was filed. We have 7 days to respond, which we did. And the Attorney General's office informed the complainant that the district had, had replied. They have another 7 days to respond to our response. And then at some point, 1-2 months down the road, the Attorney General's office will rule. So I don't, it's up to the board as to whether or not to move forward with this or to wait.
Well, I think that the issue is whether or not the call for executive session was done appropriately. Is that one of the issues that we're dealing with tonight?
So that's the source of the complaint about the June 17th meeting.
Yeah, but you did read the legal
I-
notice that
So,
we're
so
going
right,
into.
so the question, I think that what confused the person, and I guess I haven't talked to this individual, but the person who made the complaint was that, as in this agenda, right, if you look on the first page, it just says call for executive session. Now, when we know we're having an exec session,
Right,
we'll
right.
actually put like the actual statute for
Right.
the individual cause, whether it be personnel or contract or whatever. So that's when we know we're having it, but we leave this on the agenda in case something happens between when we publish the agenda and our meeting that would be a cause for us to meet. It's basically an open spot. And when that happens, and this has been verified multiple times by our attorneys, it is perfectly valid, according to state law, to read that cause, even though it's not published in the agenda, and still meet.
Okay.
And that's what we did on
Well,
June 17th.
in as much as it was just informational, I mean, that was the gist of our closed meeting was informational. We didn't vote on anything that I don't
Well,
think that.
boards can't act in closed session. And
I mean, we didn't come back and vote on anything.
Correct. We did not return to public session
It was just for
and act.
information that I think we can move ahead.
Okay. Okay. So then, the chair would then entertain a motion to adopt findings and recommendations related to the complaint filed June 6th, 2025, under Board Policy 2:105, and authorize President Pulaski, myself, to issue finding letters.
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further questions, comments, or discussions? A roll call vote would be in order.
Okay. Member Marabou?
Yes.
Member Jones?
Yes.
Member Langendorf, yes. Vice President Baxley?
Yes.
President Pulowski?
Yes.
Member Hickson?
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on with our agenda, there is no call for future special or executive meetings, so we could have our superintendent's report.
I don't have this in the report, but I did want to give a little update on the naming committee. So I am having a difficult time recruiting members to participate. I am next going to be, I went through the facility committee listing, and I'm going to be sending an email to some of the parents who were Wiley parents who are currently at the 6th grade center and invite them to participate. I've had several people ask me questions. I don't know if people talk to you, Paul, but people have stopped me in the oddest places and like at the game, and so I've approached a few folks and asked them to consider. It would be great if we could have a combination of 6th grade center staff members, a couple former Wiley staff members and/or parents. I do think it is one of the reasons that this is challenging is that I know we need to do this for transparency, and we've discussed it, but the fact that it is going to be an open meeting, people are concerned that anything they say, there were just some not so great experiences with the facility committee, and people got emails, unsolicited emails, comments that people made were put in Facebook, and people just, it was hard. And so going back to some of those same people and saying, hey, would you be interested in being part of the naming committee? has been a challenge. So I think there are a few folks that are considering it. I did invite both of the people who sent in public information to the board. One of those people has accepted. One of them is still thinking about it. I have approached someone else to facilitate the committee, and as I am not going to facilitate the committee, and so that person is thinking about it as well. So we're making a little bit of progress, and I wish I had more to share. And I'm going to just send out another email this week. And, well, I've been having personal conversations with people and not doing as much of this via email, because that way people can ask me questions. It's hard to have those kind of conversations back and forth through an email. So I've been having more face-to-face conversations around. Unfortunately, I can't tell people when they're going to meet and how long it will be, and and those are the things that people want to know. How many meetings will it be, and how long will it take? And those are unknowns until we get a group together and we can see what's the best time for people to meet. But I am still trying to plug along on it.
How many confirmed members do you have already?
One.
Okay.
And I have one person who is has said yes, they will facilitate it. And so, yes. So we have several who've asked questions and who are thinking about it. So I'm going to just keep following up. But I do have a new email group that I'm putting together. And I went through our facilities committee, and there were a couple Wiley parents who I see in the car rider line. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to ask them. They have kids here at the 6th grade center. I think it would be great to have their perspective as a former Wiley parent, now a 6th grade center parent, if they might be willing to participate. So we'll try that next. So I just wanted to give an update.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
What happens if we don't get people?
I mean, I don't know if there's a minimum. I was hoping to get, to me, a nice sized committee is at least, a couple people from varying perspectives. And, I like to have staff members and parents. So I'm thinking if we can get 6 to 7 people together, that'd be great. That's probably a nice sized group. So I'm going to hopefully keep moving forward until I can get at least 6 or 7 people to say yes, not including board members, because we already have a couple board members who have agreed to be part of it. So, okay, good question, Lindsay. Yes.
Following Lindsay's question, I guess as I read the policy, the policy was that if we're keeping the name the same, you don't really need to do anything. If you want to change the name, you have to bring a letter with 10 signatures to the board president, and then the board president appoints a committee. So what is the name right now?
Well, that's the problem, right? Because when we voted to close the building, the name was Wiley Elementary School. It was Flossie Wiley Elementary School, right? That was the whole name. So when we closed the building, then the name went.
The name closed with it.
Closed with it. So right now, it's by
that didn't happen when we closed it as an elementary building before.
What do you mean when we closed? We only closed it one time.
Well, it did.
Oh, when it was early childhood.
It was early childhood and central office.
Those were temporary. Close.
That was a temporary for a year or two. This
So, yeah,
is forevermore.
We back when this was to happen, right? The state law required 3 public hearings and all of that, and we went through all that process. I'm not confident that whole process was followed back in the 80s when.
We went through the full 3 public hearings as our attorneys advised us to do, and so by doing that, we officially closed it in the eyes of the state, in the eyes of the ROE. The building was closed.
I mean, yeah,
So-
we really should have had this committee formed a long time ago, and that's really on me as much as anybody. So we're doing it late, and I make our apologies to the public for it. And we'll just move forward with what it is right now. Right now, the name on the building is the Urbana 6th grade center, because it services the whole town. It's kind of follows the pattern of Urbana High School, Urbana Middle School, Urbana Early Childhood,
Urbana Early Childhood, Urbana Middle
Ur-
School.
Could-
Urbana Adult Education.
So has anybody brought to the board a suggestion to change it to that, with the 10 signatures?
We haven't gotten 10 signatures officially. I've heard there's a petition out, but that hasn't been brought to the board.
There's a petition out on Facebook, I believe, and it had like 237 signatures, but that was only on social media.
We have 2 official letters that have been brought forward.
I just wish we could just compromise and go forward on this. If we could have the building like we've done with the, I said this before, with the Gene Burkholder, with John Garth building, and still called it the the 6th grade center, but it's in the Wiley building, and not call it Wiley 6th grade center, but it's the Wiley building, and the 6th grade centers, and the Urbana 6th grade centers in the Wiley building.
I don't think that's fair to the people who don't agree. They should have a.
I'm just trying to
opportunity.
compromise.
I know you're trying to compromise, but there are people who feel very strongly
Well, and
that the 6th grade center should have their own identity and be their own thing moving forward.
Okay.
So, which is why we need a committee, because that's what committees do.
But in the end, it's the board that will make that decision.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It will bring a recommendation forward to you guys.
And maybe, I'm not on social media a lot, so I haven't seen you're saying that there's a petition to change it to the 6th grade center?
No, it's just to rename it the Wiley 6th grade center.
To rename it to the Wiley 6th grade center, okay, that one, I have seen that one, actually. So, I think then the people doing that petition should follow the rules, write a letter, have 10 people sign it, and bring it to the board. And then we could kind of get back to our normal, we could make it as
Well, at this point,
policy-driven
the
as
board-
possible.
The board has commissioned a committee, so that's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
you guys have basically asked me
We've
to do
directed
that.
administration to form this committee already. Because
Yes.
basically, we may not have gotten 10 formal signed letters, but I think the will of the public has been heard with
Yes.
regards to they want a name for the building. There's 2 reasons to form this committee. One is you have a building that needs naming. The other is you have a person that needs honoring, right? So what we're doing now is we have a building that needs to be named, and there's a group of people who want to have the history of that building reflected somehow in the name. So I think it's incumbent upon the board to seek direction from the committee with regards to what's how to name the building, and also how to honor the person who the prior building had been named after. I think both things can be handled by one committee, and that's how we're going to move forward.
Sherry, you going to say something else? No? Okay. Okay. So I think we can move on. So I am excited to share that we had our first Friday night under the lights for football. I want to thank all the community who came out in support. I know we're still in that rebuilding phase, so for year 3 to see that many people out. We did have some elementary families who came out and enjoyed a Friday night football game for the first time because it was designated as elementary fun night. I have some other ideas for football and basketball and other ways to get more of our Urbana community out to some of our spaces and games. But I think this was a great first just opportunity to kind of open it up for people who would never come to a football game. So it was a lot of fun. It was a great night for football. The weather couldn't have been more perfect. Our team really looked like it was a real competitive game, and I think everyone who was there really enjoyed it. So the next home game is September 12th at 7 p.m. So Philo Road ahead, the city of Urbana is hosting a Celebrate the Neighborhood event, kind of a kickoff block party in the Sunnycrest parking lot this Sunday from 1 to 5. This is I think an initiative that our new mayor really supports. And those of us who live in the Philo Road area, I think I really support that we need to be doing something to really bring life back to that area of our community. So the district will have a table. We have some administrators who signed up to be out and share resources with families. And if you're able to come Sunday from 1 to 5, they'll be set up in the Sunnycrest parking lot. Tiger Marching Band and the Labor Day Parade. Here's some great photos. This Monday, yesterday, this Champaign County Labor Day Parade, the Tiger Marching Band performed. The CU Marching Showcase is on October 6th at 7. We have hosted it the past couple years, but this year I believe it is at Centennial, so we're not hosting this year. But it's Centennial, correct? But please come out and support TMB when they're out there on October 6th with the Marching Maroons and the Marching Chargers. And our student ambassadors have already shared some great pics from Quad Day. So I do want to give a shout out to the UHS PTSA who organized the Quad Day event. Open house was also very well attended. Lots of families went into the building and met with teachers and got a chance to walk around and view schedules and just kind of have a real open introduction to UHS. And as we've already shared, there are so many clubs and activities. There really is something for everyone in our high school, so we should be very thankful for that. Just being there and seeing the mix and the diversity of the community, it really does bring forth our values of belonging and community integrity and pride. We got to see that firsthand. It was also really nice that UMS also had their open house at the same time. So there were a lot of families who started off in UMS and then they left UMS and went over to UHS for the Quad Day and open house celebration. So it was just a really nice night to see our community come together and just in a moment of celebration to kick off the new year. So great job to everyone who was involved in the planning. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Again, the FOIA report is in the published agenda. The chair at this time would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Opposed? We're done for this evening. Thank you, everyone. See you in 2 weeks.